right and ready to go on this edition of Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow. I know you're accustomed to hearing a different voice during this time, but here's what great teams will do.
We're here.
This is how they operate. When someone's down, you pick them up. That way, when you're down, they will pick you up. So Jonathan Hutton on a bit of a voice rest as my computer goes off right there, and that really did sound good. Jonathan Hutton on a slight voice rest. I'll be leading us in and out of breaks today. If Hutton's voice cracks at any point, we're not allowed to make fun of him.
Oh, well, I think there's an over-under. There's one right there.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. You have gone through puberty, can confirm. So if it happens, it's because of the voice issues and nothing
Maybe
else.
Twice.
So we cannot make fun. We got a great show today, regardless. Been over at SEC
packed.
Media Days in Nashville. A lot going on at SEC Media Days. We've got Mississippi State head coach Zach Arnett coming up a little bit later. Tony Barnhart, Mr. College Football himself. Our very own Trey Wallace at 4:05 Eastern. Gary Danielson, a legendary broadcaster with CBS that's been doing SEC Games of the Week.
Should we say hated?
For many years.
Hated?
A divisive Gary Danielson. I think he's hated in some corners.
I don't know if he's hated. I think
but not all.
That's a bit too far. Maybe, I don't know. Just
I
loathed.
may, Hutton, ask him about being hated and whether or not he hears the noise coming up. And I think he's going to have a good answer for that. Michael McHenry always has great answers. We'll talk Major League Baseball with him coming up in about 18, 19 minutes. So terrific show for you today. Looking forward to all these interviews that we've conducted over at SEC Media Days. Big story of the day, though, Hutton. Kirby Smart had his time at the podium at SEC Media Days, and I don't think any big surprise. Did a good job of deflecting away from a lot of off-field issues, culture problems, question mark, at Georgia with the super speeding violations, with sexual assault, where they've demanded a retraction from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution on it. And Kirby Smart did a good job of coming out of the gates and deciding not to say much of anything.
Well, I do think the guy cares. I think there is something to be said, though, about, the national pundits jumping on versus, the insulated college town, right? If he's not back-to-back national championship winning head coach Kirby Smart, he's feeling more pressure about doing something about the culture of the program, right? And I think that's kind of the mantra he's brought to Nashville and SEC Media Days is he's pitching the program and he's saying the right things in a very rehearsed manner, but also not facing a ton of questions about it at the same time. Everyone's on a timetable, and as long as you're the coach that spends a lot of time with your opening address, you can take up a lot of that time before you answer a bunch of questions from the 300, 400 plus in the room, which you were, Chad. And how long did it take to actually get to the question about the street racing?
Look, I mean, I get the drill, right? These guys, they come in, they want to talk about what they want to talk about. So Kirby Smart opened talking about his summer vacation, that they had planned to go to the Amalfi Coast, and instead he was a travel baseball dad for a month, and that he went and watched his son play in Mississippi and kind of made a joke about wanted to be on the Amalfi Coast, but instead I'm in Mississippi, but loved every second of it, and discussed his entire summer break. Got into the team's leadership study that they got into this year with the New Zealand All Blacks, the rugby team, as the most successful winning percentage team in the world. So they're researching them on how to not be complacent. So got into a lot of things that's going on that it wasn't what anyone wanted to talk about. And here's also what you get at SEC Media Days. The first three questions came from Go Dogs, Black and Red, BulldogBiteYou.com. Some analyst from there, I say in air quotes, that, hey, talk about the addition of this guy and what happened with it. So the first three questions were just, sucking up to Kirby Smart. Then Pat Forty.
Well, they may have already asked questions regarding this, too, having been and had access to Kirby Smart.
Yeah.
Unlike the rest of the group.
They haven't, because they had a private media session before that did not get out, where they met privately with some select local media about some of the allegations. Pat Forty of Sports Illustrated spoke, and then he asked the question about the tragedy and then all of the super speeding violations. Kirby Smart's answer to that was I thought he did a good job. He was like, look, it's a problem. And he said, in fact, it's been an issue since we got there at Georgia. Yeah. And he said, there's not been any more recently. It's been a problem throughout. And he said, first and foremost, I'm concerned about the safety of my players. And when you're going over 100 miles per hour, your safety is in jeopardy. So I'm trying to stress to them about being safer. And he also said, anytime I've been in a car over 100 miles per hour, I was probably 18 to 20 years old. So it's about cutting out that part, that desire of what they want to do with the speeding. Didn't get into the Atlanta Journal-Constitution part of it while I was there. But I watch all this, Hutton, and I think, yeah, I see why Kirby Smart's such a good recruiter. He's a good talker. I mean, he can get up there and convince you of a lot of things, and he can say a lot of words, but it's not really answering a lot of the questions, but he does so in an intelligent way.
Well, and they have results now.
I can see how the guy's really good in the living room when I watch him on the podium at SEC Media Days. That's not a knock at him. That's a compliment. I can see why the dude recruits so well.
Well, and not just recruits well, but now the program speaks for itself on the field. What did he say about the quarterback battle? Did he address that? Replacing Stetson Bennett?
No, not while I was there. I've not read the entire transcript, but I watched up until the point where he was asked about the super speeding.
You got Bama and Georgia replacing quarterbacks, and I haven't heard much about that this week so far. That's a massive story.
I'm going to get into that a little bit later with Tony Barnhart on the show and with Gary Danielson, because it's a big question mark, and it goes to show just how dominant those programs are, that no one seems to be overly concerned about replacing a campus legend in Stetson Bennett, and then replacing the number one prospect in America coming out of high school, and then eventually the number one overall pick in the NFL draft in Bryce Young at Alabama. So we'll talk about that a little bit later.
Chad, the NFL in general, not worried about replacing their top running backs, their top stars, except for a handful of teams that divvy out money. And while the franchise tag is roughly, $10 million, $10.1 or $2 million
somewhere
this year,
between 10 and 11 million.
Yeah, it's the low tens, but it's still double digits for the position. It's nowhere near what the top guys are getting paid, and the top guys are under the franchise tag based on the structure of rookie contracts, first-round picks. Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, and Tony Pollard in yesterday's deadline without a contract extension, meaning if they play this year, they're under the franchise tag. Pollard has signed it, and beyond that,
the other two have not.
The other guys are claiming they're going to sit out.
They're going to sit out.
The top backs in the league, Chad, are coming to the defense of those on social saying that, well, this makes a ton of sense because you're just not going to get paid. You're going to get franchise tagged, and then you move on after year 7 to the next first-round pick if you are a run-based offense like we will see in New York, like we will see with the Raiders, and like Dallas has always been.
Yeah, Derrick Henry, Austin Eckler you're seeing right now, Christian McCaffrey. Austin Eckler says this is the kind of trash that has artificially devalued one of the most important positions in the game. Everyone knows it's tough to win without a top running back, and yet they act like we are discardable widgets. I support any running back doing whatever it takes to get his bag. Here's where I'm going to be a big old wet blanket on this big running back party on social media. First off, nice job, Matt Miller, really firing up Derrick Henry and running backs across the league. Cry me a freaking river about making between $10 and $11 million under the franchise tag. I am sorry, but give me a break. You are acting like you are being just criminalized in some way. I don't know if that's a word. I may have just made it up. Because you act like, because they're devaluing the running back. You are making generational wealth if you play your position well, the way this thing is set up, regardless. Are you making as much as the top wide receivers? No. Are you making as much as the top quarterbacks? No. It's because the league values those positions more right now. I think Saquon Barkley said, well, it is what it is. I think that was his tweet.
And not getting a deal done. And the Giants tried to do that. But like Josh Jacobs is not breaking the bank with generational wealth on his rookie deal. A 4-year deal for $11 million total is what he got to be with the Raiders. And he outperformed that.
Yeah, well, he also has got a chance to sign a piece of paper for doubling that.
Right.
For 1 year. So, look, I'm not going to sit and cry a pity party for guys that are set to make $21 million over the course of 5 years.
But that's not the longevity of the position at all. 5 years. It's less than 3.
Well,
and that's those that produce do it at a very high level, and those that don't get replaced not just year by year, but game by game.
The guys that we're talking about, though, that are crying, all have opportunities for generational wealth. All of them.
No, they don't. Saquon does because he's number 2 pick. Generational wealth is not 4 years for $11 million, and then you play on the tag or you sit out for 10. That's not it. But generational wealth would be what Chris Johnson received. Generational wealth would be what we saw 10 years ago in the NFL compared to now at the position. And it's what A.J. Brown is getting now. It's not what we're seeing across 32 teams. There are a handful of teams, though, that invest in running backs. And that's the problem with the position. There's not enough to drive up the price and actually negotiate against anyone.
Yeah, it's go back and be a receiver. I mean, I don't know. Like, I just don't know what to tell them because this is where we are in the league right now.
We will see more of that, though. The top players in high school played either quarterback or running back, and I'm not sure players are going to sign up to play running back. You didn't want to play corner. You wanted to be a wide receiver, a running back, and that's changing because corners are getting paid more, and running back is declining because they're going to use 3 or 4 specialized guys. Where Henry is the second highest paid player this year at the position, and he's not on the field on 3rd down.
I would just be running to sign that franchise tag if I were these guys right now.
Oh, they should. I've said that.
I mean that's where I don't feel sorry for them. We're talking about the guys who had the opportunity to be franchise tagged for a lot of money for 1 year. Look, I understand that. I think I forget the tweet, one of the running backs that all chimed in on Matt Miller's, had a very good point about, you play 3 years, you get good enough to get the option, for the other one. Then you play, you deliver, and suddenly, you're deemed worthy of 1 more year, and then they're done with you, and they're moving on next. Then you draft again, right? And doing that. That's Matt Miller, in fact, brought that up about drafting a running back. Here's the formula for teams right now about what they're doing.
Which is why you would draft in the 1st round to have this right.
I understand that level of frustration from the guys from that perspective.
If you're drafted after the 1st round, you don't get tagged. So, and for the last several years, though, it's been why waste a 1st-round pick on a running back?
Yep.
Well, this is why. Because if you make it to the 2nd round, you don't necessarily get to pick where you're going there. But you do in 4 years, unlike Josh Jacobs.
And it's now changing from the teams that value running back that would sign them to a long-term deal.
Yeah.
Similar to the Titans with Derrick Henry, sign them
McCaffrey.
to a contract. McCaffrey, it's going from that to you could value running back and just draft a 1st-round running back every 4 or 5 years and then be done with it. And you discard that running back the moment the 4 or 5 years is up.
Highest paid right now this year, McCaffrey at 16, Kamara at 15, Henry at 12.5, and then Nick Chubb at 12.2. Then there's a big drop-off. Dalvin Cook was scheduled to make a little over $10 million. He's going to count 14, and he's still on the open market because no one's going to sign him to near the contract that I'm sure the pay cut would have included to stay in Minnesota.
So Hutton, Dak Prescott has now got a turnover guarantee where he's promising to go below a certain number because interceptions were the problem last year for the Cowboys offensively.
Oh, it could have been a lot worse, too, because he only played in 12 games. Yeah. He had 15 picks in 12 games. That led the NFL for starting quarterbacks, all quarterbacks. And Chad now says he guarantees it's going to be less than 10. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I guess that means Tony Pollard's going to get the ball a lot out of the backfield. That also, is there a game guarantee by Prescott? Because he missed 5 because of a broken hand or a thumb.
I think Jerry Jones would like the game guarantee.
Oh,
hey, can you
Jones
stay healthy?
has been taking shots at him.
Yeah. Can you stay healthy for the entire season and not throw a bunch of picks?
He's either great or he's awful.
You have set yourself up. Look, I like it. If you're that confident in it, that go ahead and put that bar out there that I'm not going to go over 10 interceptions this year.
Yeah.
But you have set yourself up for a lot of jokes and a lot of hate the moment you throw that 11th pick on the year when you say this in the preseason.
And, you got McCarthy calling plays now. that new OC. But the change needs to be with just some really bad throws from Prescott last year in some key moments. And it led to, him leading the league even though he missed 5 games. That's tough to do. Think about the rookie quarterbacks.
They've got a good team.
The backups that come in, yeah, they do.
Around them, they've got a very,
talented.
very talented team.
And they still won 12 games.
Tony Pollard, who we're just talking about with the running back, he's the one who signed the franchise tender. That's going to be a big part of it.
Chad, your favorite interview today was with who?
Gary Danielson, I think. Gary Danielson, someone we've all seen and heard on television for years now with that SEC Game of the Week. A lot of fun talking with him.
In the final season of the SEC on CBS, Gary's going to join us in about 2 hours, I believe.
Yep.
Here on the show. Really interested in Zach Arnett.
But they're all like my
Bulldogs.
children. When you have an interview, Hutton, it's tough to pick a favorite.
Chad crushed it today.
So
I had the opportunity to go get
they're all my favorite.
I had the opportunity to go get roided up, some steroids. So Chad took care of business today.
Hutton's got a great steroid guy. Whoever the doctor is that Hutton can go to for steroids quickly when he has allergy issues. Everyone should know that doctor.
I think it was this contract 2 or 3 we had where I volunteered to do the HGH to see what would happen.
I think that you went to Mark McGuire's doctor for this, and Barry Bonds.
I only got the cream in the clear instead.
Barry gave you the rec on this doctor here in Nashville.
What was the Bonds guy's name from Florida?
Tony?
Something like that, yeah. Michael McHenry joins us.
It'll come to me when we come back.
John Smoltz says Otani to the Yankees means they're the World Series favorite. We'll start there.
Pat Fitzgerald has been fired. Pat Fitzgerald, the beleaguered, the weirdo, I guess, or his weird players, has been fired by Northwestern University. And the Northwestern children, the players, are not happy about it. They are not taking it well. Well, I ask you, Northwestern players. In fact, I just put out a video to Northwestern players that are mad. And they're mad because, well, the old coach. The old coach got blank canned because, well, the players decided it was a good idea to get naked, do naked crawls, naked claps, naked soap up themselves in front of the shower and make players run through because the players of Northwestern really are perverted. I mean, I'll never understand it. Now, I got guys saying, well, Bobby Knight, you guys hazed just in a different way, yelling and screaming. Yeah, you're right. We did. Tough. You don't like it? So what? But we never did the nudity thing. We never did the sexual assault thing. We never did the stuff, hey, we're going to slap you and dry hump you. At some point, the players, don't you agree, the players of Northwestern got to look themselves in the mirror and say, you know what? This is kind of on us. You know what? We caused a lot of this. You know what? We shouldn't have done that. Now, every time I see a Northwestern player from now on, I'm like, yeah, you're a weirdo. Used to be every time I saw a Northwestern player, I'd be like, man, you're a tough dude. You played for a tough coach, played for a high-end academic institution. I'd hire you in a second. Now I'm like, yeah, you got a bunch of weirdos running around there. Now I'm like, what in the hell are you doing there in the locker room at Northwestern? And I told you yesterday that this firing was coming because of this one reason. When you have to have outside people monitor your locker room because your players are perverts, because your coach allows it, because it's a culture of somehow, some way naked hazing. And no one's denying the hazing, by the way. So it's not like I'm speaking out of school. Sure, Fitzgerald, whatever, is a great dude. Sure, he is the face of Northwestern. I would argue he's the most important figure in the history of Northwestern athletics. Nobody's not saying good dude. But he did what a lot of dumb meat-headed coaches do. He got on his little mount. He's got his little pillar. He's got his little kingdom. And on top of the kingdom is him. And he got to thinking he was untouchable because no coach with any common sense would allow that in this day and age. I don't know what they were doing back when Bear Bryant was having guys out at camp. I don't know what they were doing when Kay first started. I don't know what they were doing at Indiana when Knight first started. I only know what I've been involved in, and it's never involved dry humping other men or nudity. Just saying. In the locker room. Naked. On my team. Never. Anywhere, actually, but never. Used to give you a ball tap once in a while out in public just to say hello. But I got to tell you, it's just the weirdest thing. And none of these players are taking any accountability. You know what they're doing? They're doing the Biden strategy. This went from the Bob Knight strategy of round up all the players, ex-players, whoever, and talk great things about this strong man. Look at his chin. Yeah, that's what they do.
We're back. Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick network, live from our 6th and Peabody studios, downtown Nashville, Old Smoky Moonshine and Yeehaw Beer. Coming up 1 hour from now, Mississippi State head coach Zach Arnett will join the show with SEC Media Days going on right in our backyard here in Nashville, Tennessee. Not in our backyard, but we would invite him to our backyard anytime.
He wishes he were.
Nice barbecue, a picnic, whatever it may be, is Michael McHenry, because, let's face it, he's a member of the family by this time.
Yep.
And we're talking Major League Baseball with him. Pirates television crew. The Fort is on with us now. How we doing, Fort?
I'm doing well, and I'd like a nice picnic, guys.
I think
anytime you want to invite me to a nice picnic, what would you feature on that?
Charcuterie.
In the dishes, I guess.
This trend of the girls' dinner, where you just basically snack the entire time. A charcuterie board, that would be nice for the picnic. Or
Chad's been doing this every day for his entire life.
We could make it a
snacking the entire time.
That's what I like. I do like the snack. Or we could make it a slightly more masculine and grill or barbecue and just lay out a blanket afterward and eat the meat we grill in picnic form, whichever you prefer.
I feel like we should be maybe no blanket with the masculinity.
Yeah.
Make sure that, maybe we do have a dinosaur blanket. I don't know.
Michael,
a little strange.
During a game, during your playing days in the league, what were you most likely to sneak behind into the clubhouse and grab to eat from the training table?
Man, that's a really good call. Probably banana. Have you ever seen that? There's a former Blue Jays player who said monkeys never cramp. So he would always eat bananas.
Yeah.
Said monkey never cramp. So I'd always go grab a banana or anything that was available, honestly. But there were some places where, Milwaukee Brewers, until they went on their health kick, they had nacho cheese. I'm not a big nacho cheese fan, but for some reason, I think they put some type of maybe drug or something in there that was just, if you took one, you could not stop. So you go in, and honestly, I heard Jack Wilson say this, and I did the same thing, is you go in, you get a little cheese, a little chip, and if you don't get a hit, you go back for another one until you get that hit. So you kind of just play that game inside your mind.
Did you ever slam a hot dog in between innings? I feel like those would be readily available in the ballpark, and just decide I need a little protein. I did do an
ice cream sandwich, though. I did do an ice cream sandwich.
On a hot day?
On a hot day. And my mom used to make me these cookies, and I swear to you, every time she sent the cookies over mail, I got 2 or 3 hits the next day, so I called them my 2-hit cookies. So I was desperate. I mean, absolutely desperate. So I ran in, I grabbed an ice cream cookie sandwich, and I just hammered the thing. I think I was sick after the game, but I did get a hit, and I was very happy.
Love it. So Fort, John Smoltz has said that if the Yankees could trade for Shohei Otani, that they would be the World Series favorite. Here are the Yankees right now, currently dead last in the AL East. Obviously, Otani's going to make a huge difference for whoever lands him. He's having the best season in the history of Major League Baseball right now. What do you think about the prospects of Otani and whether or not he's going to get dealt, and what that could mean for the Yankees if they were able to pull that off?
If that were true, the Angels would have not had a losing season every year since 2018.
That's a good point.
That's the reality. I mean, you got to look at it for what it is. Yes, he does make any team he goes to better. He's a great teammate. But you think about the Yankees, they're in turmoil. I mean, they just hired the mayor, who's from here, who's an incredible human being. He's a guy that can really maybe help them out. And who I'm talking about is Sean Casey, if you don't know. this guy can really bring out the best in every person he's around. And they're trying to fix that entire offense. So bringing him in, I don't know if that's going to help or hurt him. I mean, that's the reality they're in now. Maybe it looks a little bit different 2-3 weeks from now, right before that trade deadline. But I would be scared to bring him in because you're going to literally give up the entire farm system and maybe not be able to sign him. I believe LA is going to be the front runner moving forward. Maybe you have the Mets, but you look at the Dodgers, they're really set up to bring in Otani. Maybe they trade for him and then have a deal on the table already set. But yeah, this guy is dynamic. He can change a team in a heartbeat, but you are giving up a lot to go get him, and being in last place and really, in my opinion, really a far stretch away from even making the playoffs, and thinking that one guy, which has never happened in baseball, one guy's never changed the outcome of a team. Maybe CC Sabathia with the Milwaukee Brewers, but they still did win the World Series.
So Bryce Harper has not played defense in over 450 days for the Phillies. And now he's going to play defense, and he's going to play first base, a position he's rarely played. This sounds really difficult to me, Michael. What do you think about the prospects of Bryce Harper at first?
I'm not going to put anything past him. The guy's been good. Just about everything he's done. He's kind of fallen off a little bit in the outfield, but you look at the time it's taken. You know, he started this during his rehab stint, you know, kind of fiddling around with it, trying to figure out where does he fit best. He's taking ground balls at second base. He's trying to find a place he can best help the team. And we've talked before, guys, when you sign a guy to a long-term deal, this is the advantage you get. You can move them around the diamond. They're not chasing money. They're not chasing a contract. They're there. And a guy like Bryce Harper, who's really grown up over the last couple of years, he was a guy that maybe wasn't liked as much in the league. Now guys respect him. They want to play with him. They want to go to Philadelphia because they see the heart and soul he puts into that team. So I think he's going to figure it out. I think he's going to figure it out quick. I think they're going to have a huge problem when their first baseman comes back and Hoskins. That may be an issue because I think Bryce Harper may be a better first baseman than he is an outfielder. I mean, he's not been a plus outfielder for the last couple of years, really struggled, had some kind of floppy times where he's gone one direction, the ball's the other. So I think this could be a really good fit for him for the long term.
Can you try to put in perspective the pressure he felt coming into the league and how, you know, he's lived up to those expectations and then some, which is very rare?
Absolutely. You can kind of put it in context in today's game because you're seeing so many young guys in the league. I mean, the Pirates just now had 26 24-year-olds in their lineup last night. I mean, that's how young the league is getting. With Bryce Harper, I mean, you're talking about a 17-year-old National Player of the Year. He did things that have never been done and may never be done again when it comes to going to junior college, hitting with a wooden bat, hitting 35 homers, and then getting into pro ball and flying through the system. At 19 years old, he's making his debut, and he does it well. Not good, he does it well, and he just continues to get better. He's always had that pressure. He's maybe, in my opinion, the LeBron James type hype in baseball. We haven't had that very often at a very young age. I mean, you're talking about when this kid was 12 years old, he's hitting balls 480, 500 feet, making a name for himself on Sports Illustrated, and he's handled it well. But a lot of times with that, it comes maybe a little bit of an attitude, a little bit of pushback. But ever since he had a child, he's completely flip-flopped. He's been a different human being. He's a great teammate. He's kind of speaks out for baseball in the MLBPA, which is absolutely huge. A guy like him to be able to do that. I mean, he gave his shoes away at the airport. I mean, that kind of tells you what type of human being he is now.
So the Cardinals look like they're in position to be sellers at the trade deadline. But John Mozeliak, their top executive, is saying, I don't foresee us trying to get the guys to waive their no-trade clause that are the stars of this team. That's Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado. But he also said, but you never say never on what the offer could be because they want to load up on arms. They want pitching at this trade deadline. What do you think about the Cardinals' position they're in right now, Michael? And you look at that franchise, they've had so much success. Do you treat this as a one-year blip and you don't sell your stars right now and try to rebuild and just treat it as such and say, this is more fluke than anything else. We're going to sit strong and come back next year and try to be better?
This was a long time coming. I mean, you look at Garcia, you look at Zach Allen, you look at the outfielder, left fielder, Rosarena, in Tampa Bay. All three guys that played on the same team in the Cardinal system, all traded away. So you kind of look at the trades in the past. This was a long time coming. Those are three guys that started in the All-Star game, remind you. And two of them were in the home run derby. One's probably going to be the NL Cy Young Award winner. So it's 3 guys. It's not all the guys they traded away, but those guys were all coming up together in the Cardinals system. They're not there now. So it's kind of a long time coming because you get rid of that talent that's so good in the minor leagues to get what you need at the top. Eventually it's going to catch up to you, especially if you have a lot of money tied up, a lot of guys with no trade clauses. Obviously the corners are absolutely outstanding for the Cardinals, but they need to be honest. This fan base deserves it. I mean, if they're going to try to trade off some of these guys or ask Nolan or ask Goldie to do something that maybe is unorthodox, hey, would you be willing to go to LA? Would you be willing to do this? Just be upfront. I mean, Nolan's already said it. Goldie's already said it. It's out in the open. These guys know where they're at. It's going to be an absolute miracle for them to even make a wild card. There's a very good division that's growing rapidly in the Central. So he should be out front, honest, and transparent of what they're trying to do. They need so much pitching right now. They've got a lot of guys that continue to get hurt. They have a lot of young guys that have not maybe come to life yet. They've got to figure it out because this division is going to be very, very good for a long time. When you look at Cincinnati, the Cubs are on the rise, the Pirates are on the rise, and then you can never, ever, ever count out Milwaukee and what they could be in the next couple of years, even though they're probably the best team right now in the division, even with Cincinnati on top.
Do you think Mets owner Steve Cohen has it in him to be a seller at any point in his life, given what he's done with that team so far? And should they sell at the trade deadline with the Mets?
I think they're a team that can flip their team completely by being a seller. So I think he's looking at it from all angles, and he's got to look at it as a seller. I mean, if you sell off some of these guys you've signed to big contracts, even those medium-sized contracts, you have a lot of really, really good players. He's already designated some players that were under contract for $5, $6, $10 million. So instead of maybe designating these guys and trying to pull them back and then trade them, you just trade them. You get rid of them and you take whatever you can, you re-bolster underneath, and that gives you an opportunity whether to hold on to those players, develop them, and try to get them to the big leagues, or have the opportunity to kind of rework it and send those guys out to get what you need in the offseason. That's what he's got to look at. Obviously, you're not going to catch up to the Braves. Miami's looking absolutely outstanding. And Philadelphia traditionally is a second-half team, and I'm telling you right now, with Bryce Harper moving to first, that's going to bolster a fan base. That's going to bring excitement because you're going to see him on the field consistently, and that's a big deal because I guarantee you the power numbers start to rise as he's on that field. It's very hard to DH every day. What he did last year was just remarkable. The power starting to show back up. That entire lineup changes when that guy starts swinging for the fences and it starts falling in the stands much more consistently because they don't know what to do because it balances them out.
Michael McHenry, our guest here on Hot Mic with Hut and Withrow. What is an MLB trade deadline day like behind the scenes for players? We're a couple of weeks away from it, August 1st. I'm guessing it can motivate a roster. It can also be a huge downer if the group thinks they're going to add a player and be a buyer and they end up being a seller.
Well, first, it really depends on where you are as a team. If you're right in between, it is a weird day because you do not know what management's going to do. I was in that situation at 11, and all of a sudden we get Derek Lee, we get Ludwig, we get some really big names, and we're like, man, we're kind of far away, but man, they believe in us. So it kind of maybe gave us a boost of some sort. Even though we didn't play well, you could feel the change in the atmosphere, the change in the clubhouse. Like there was a huge belief. Now, if you're losing, you're just waiting and you're hoping your name's not called, honestly, because it's a weird feeling to every time see maybe your positional coach walk in and kind of make eye contact with you, and you like, no, not now. I don't want to leave. I don't want to go. But that's the reality. You kind of have to look at it at all angles. I mean, we made 7 moves yesterday, and we're trying to figure some things out with the Pirates. It's even worse moving up to that deadline because they're trying to figure out how to better their roster now and moving forward. It's a completely different animal than maybe even 5 or 6 years ago. Like most teams are trying to be buyers and sellers. So even if you're losing, you may be trying to be buyers. That's the reality because you're always trying to boost your team moving forward. So it's a wild ride. It goes till 6 o'clock Eastern, which is nuts because that's going to go right into the game. So all this news is going to be breaking maybe even as first pitch because it trickles in really slowly. So maybe 7 o'clock before you hear the last trade.
Final thing for you, final minute. Do you hate the Major League Baseball All-Star unis as much as Chad and I do?
They kind of look like Smurfs. I mean, really.
What do the guys say about it?
it's how hot it is. And I think they're lucky in Seattle. Those things are so thick.
Yeah.
I think a lot of guys don't really appreciate that. Obviously, they're standing around a lot more than actually just going out and play. When you're playing, you don't really think about much, but when you're just hanging out, it becomes a lot. So I wish they'd go back to just wearing their normal unis. I think it's really cool. I get why they're doing it, but maybe they just change, like the Braves logo has the color on it or something like that, like how they do for Military Day. That'd be neat. It'd still be a chance to sell those jerseys. I know it's all about money and that's what they're looking for, but yeah, the Space Cadet jerseys they had, I'm not a real big fan.
Well, one of the best things about the All-Star game is having players in their actual uniforms on the field. It's one of the greatest things about it. In baseball, you can do that you can't in the other sports. I hated it. I hope they get back to just wearing their normal uniforms during the game. Always great having you on the show normally, Michael. And today was another normal day because it was great. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to our picnic.
Yeah, the picnic is definitely on deck. We're going to make that happen. The Fort, Michael McHenry,
the best
analyst, does a terrific job with us. We got to get that picnic going, and we got to get rid of those All-Star Game uniforms.
No one cares about the split between the two now, American National.
It doesn't matter anymore. It's a playoff construction, much like in the NBA. It's, East and West. It's the same as that. Does not matter. I'll tell you what does matter. Some names in college football. My goodness. We're going to list some of them when we come back with Haley Carania.
Key and Peele will be jealous.
It would blow your mind. It feels like a Key and Peele sketch. And let's be honest. It's unbelievable. We get to that next. This is Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow.
Two biggest social media giants, Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg, are set to battle it out, and I'm here on Broadway asking people who they put their money on. Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk, they're going to fight each other. Who do you think's going to win?
I think Mark's got him.
Really?
Yeah.
Why do you think that?
Because he's a man.
Okay, and Elon Musk isn't?
Oh, well, of course, he's got money.
Okay.
He's got money. Money, well, money's money.
Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg in a fight?
I don't know. I'm going to go with Musk.
Why?
It just seems like he's a little bit younger, a little bit smarter.
You just got a good feeling about him?
I got a good feeling.
Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg?
Musk.
Why?
He trains. That guy's going to beat his
But Mark Zuckerberg is actually training jiu-jitsu for 9 months.
Not happening. Elon Musk all day.
Elon Musk.
Why do you think?
He has no soul. I mean, I think he's definitely just going to no holds barred.
Elon Musk.
Why do you think that?
I don't know. I feel like he's stronger and smarter.
Oh, Elon Musk.
All the way? Why?
All the way. He's an animal. Think about it.
Mark Zuckerberg's been training for 9 months jiu-jitsu. You think Elon Musk can take him?
Yeah, I think he can take him.
Elon, that oh God, stop playing with Elon. Elon really do this out here, for real.
I hope Elon
Really? Why do you think so?
got better ideas.
Zuckerberg's like 5'7", 155. Musk is 6'1", 190. But Zuckerberg's been training jiu-jitsu for 9 months. Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg, who's going to win in a fight?
Oh, Elon Musk. No doubt.
Why do you think so?
He's the GOAT. I've been seeing all the Twitter handles and all the talk, and I'm on Elon Musk's side. I'm ready for them to get in the WWE ring and then come off the top rope. That's what I want to see. I want to see a people's elbow to Mark Zuckerberg.
If one was more likely to be a lizard or a robot, who would it be?
Elon.
Okay.
I think Mark Zuckerberg will win.
Why do you think that?
Because I think he already trains MMA, so he's got like the prior experience and stuff. I mean, they're both billionaires, so they have the opportunity to get the best training. But I think Mark Zuckerberg will pull away with the win.
Elon Musk.
Why do you think so?
Because he's bigger.
Bigger, okay, but Mark Zuckerberg's been training jiu-jitsu for 9 months. Do you think that matters?
No.
Because Elon Musk's he's gonna learn and train, right? So
Yeah. I think he'll handle Mark Zuckerberg. Mark Zuckerberg's a lizard, right? So
he's a lizard, but does that help him?
I don't think so. I think Elon will squash the lizard.
Cage fight. Elon Musk is mental, so Elon Musk.
All it is just he's mental. He's mentally crazy. So
He just wouldn't care, would he?
Okay.
He'd just absolutely go for it. I think Zuckerberg would be a bit more refrained.
Okay.
If that should ever happen, which I doubt, but you never know, it'd be entertaining.
Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg?
Elon Musk.
Why?
Because my dad is in love with Elon Musk.
Okay.
I think I'm going to have to go with Zuckerberg. I mean, Threads just came out, so.
Who do you think would win?
Zuck.
Why do you think so?
He's not a real human. He's a robot.
So he'll use that to his advantage.
Yeah, and all the Krav Maga stuff too. Yeah.
Who do you think would win in a fight, Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk?
Elon Musk.
Why do you think Elon Musk?
I think Elon's
He
smarter.
works with robots, so maybe he built a robot to fight for him.
But what if Mark Zuckerberg is a robot?
Oh, wow.
Then I might have to change my answer.
Who do you think is going to win?
Me.
We're back. Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick network. Alongside Jonathan Hutton, I'm Chad Withrow. This came out last night, I think, in a tweet where Jim Weber posted some of college football's all-name team.
The Sickos Committee.
Sickos Committee posted the list. I think the tweet that I saw was his
Well, he's a
response.
part of that podcast, I believe.
Yeah, was the retweet of his favorites on the list. And Hutton sends this to me. And I think this is incredible. We agreed we needed to get Haley Karania in studio of OutKick. She is our resident pop culture correspondent to give us some of the best names on this list because, Haley, quite frankly, I'm shocked that some of these names are real.
I'm shocked at some of these names. They want to, I want to have Child Protective Services on speed dial with some of these because
they're all real, by the way.
Quarterback from Oklahoma, General Booty. DeColdest Crawford, not to be confused with DeRealist Clark.
Those are two different people.
Two different people.
Okay.
DeRealist Clark from Defiance College in Ohio.
I mean, if you're DeRealist, then you have to go to Defiance. So that only makes sense.
And I believe that's a Christian college, I think, which is odd because it's Defiance College, but it's in the town of Defiance.
I do think with some of these names, Haley, if you're the parent and you're at the hospital and you turn this name in, that, just like if someone gets a report of something, you have to look into it. You get a domestic violence call, the cops show up, they got to talk to people. Maybe someone has to go to jail regardless of what happened, right? I do think there should be a counseling session.
There's got to be a where are they now?
Well,
what were they thinking? Not a where are they now, what were they thinking?
Some of these are nicknames. And by the way, we knew immediately, Chad, that it was real because General Booty, the quarterback at Oklahoma, is on the first team list here through Jim. And Cavassier Smoke at Kentucky. I mean, at Colorado. This is a no-brainer.
Formerly of Kentucky.
Of Kentucky, yes. Cavassier Smoke playing with Deion Sanders makes a ton of sense.
But also Hutton, you hinted at this. When the name matches the position.
That's my favorite.
Like Cavassier Smoke being a running back is great. It doesn't work as well if he's an offensive guard, right? Well, I think one of the names and Haley confirmed for us, one of the names on this list is Pig Cage.
Pig Cage.
So Pig Cage, when we hear
defensive back.
That's where we think offensive guard.
Gotta be.
For a name Pig Cage, but he's a DB, so it doesn't fit as well. Also, when I hear Pig Cage, I think about that movie Nicolas Cage did about pigs. Didn't he play he was in a movie, I think, named Pig, I feel like. And I immediately thought,
what?
Is Pig Cage in honor of the Nick Cage movie Pig?
I
know that he
know.
did something involving pigs in film. I know that for sure. I think the name of the movie was, in fact, Pig.
Pig Cage is crazy, but Dude Person...
Dude
I think
Person
takes the game.
Is unbelievable. What position is he?
Dude Person is
DB.
He is a DB from Central Arkansas.
See, that's where Pig needs to be played.
Dude Person is your parents are so out of name ideas that they're just it's a boy. We'll just call him Dude, and he'll be Dude Person since the last name is Person.
Surely that's a nickname.
I had
right?
a friend with a golden retriever named Boy because they got the puppy, come here, boy, and then it just stuck. They were like, oh, we'll call him Boy. Like, I feel like, hey, dude, and then they just kept calling him Dude forever.
Now, I mean, some of these, it feels like they're made up, and this is the one that really jumped out to me. There's a guy named Mobility, M-O-H, Bility, and he's in the transfer portal. So his ability to move is right there. He's the only one in the transfer portal.
It's M-O-H, short for Mohammed.
Okay.
Totally legit. He is in the transfer portal. I believe he played down in Texas initially.
Tonka Hemingway from South Carolina.
Is he a rider?
There's a defensive lineman named Meatball Smith.
See, that's
Sam Houston.
That's got to be
That's
a
perfect.
nickname. That can't be real.
Of course. Yeah, it's got to be.
That's got to be a nickname, too. This one is not a nickname, I don't think. I think someone actually named their child Demon. There's a Demon Clowney that plays for Charlotte.
So he is the cousin of Jadeveon Clowney, and it is he goes by his name is Damon, but they spell it Demon.
Okay.
D-E-M-O-N.
Damon is better. I just would have gone with Damon. Just put the A in there and just said, let's just call him Damon. That also would have been nice. Charlotte really racked up on this team, Haley, because you've got Demon Clowney or Damon Clowney.
Damon, yeah.
You've also got Comanche Francisco, and then
Stone Handy.
Stone Handy.
Comanche Francisco sounds like an Anchorman character.
Yeah.
With Will Ferrell.
We go live to our report in the field from Comanche Francisco.
Yes.
Here are two more that crack me up. Rowdy Beers and also Rocky Beers, two separate people, which make me feel like, again, they were in the hospital staring down at a newborn. Like, babe, I named our son not after you, but after your favorite Barstool Sports podcast.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like
to
me.
Amazing. Hutton, you've done a lot of research on these names. Are these
I
twins?
tried to verify them. I don't know.
Are these
know
twin
about
brothers, Rocky and Rowdy?
So
Beers?
Rowdy's at Florida International, I believe.
Yeah, Rocky's at Air Force.
Okay.
Rocky and Rowdy Beers.
Yeah, it's listed on here.
Sounds like my weekend plans.
That's his name. This is.
There's a punter named Maximilian von Marburg. Sounds like Dutch royalty that he punts for Syracuse.
You may be related to him.
He could be. It could be the von Schmitto connection.
The von Schmitto.
Ephesians Prysock, Arizona.
Again, this sounds like Key and Peele East-West Shrine game.
Servassier Dennis, I've heard of at Pitt.
Wing Green from Georgia Tech.
See, we can go through and probably pretty quickly find like which one's nickname and which one's real. I think Wing is the actual first name. That's not a nickname. Wing Green, offensive lineman. Buck Coors at Wyoming. Also, Buck Coors at Wyoming as a Wyoming Cowboy is perfect.
Yep.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, that is where the Key and Peele part of this really comes in, is some of these feel so perfect they have to be a production of someone. Like Buck Coors attending Wyoming as a Cowboy is too perfect.
Chad, Squirrel White also validates this list. He has made it as the second-team wide receiver from Tennessee.
He's a good player. Aju from USF, a wide receiver, also another good one.
Tiger Shanks in Las Vegas, I believe. That kind of works too.
Storm
I
Duck.
think of Joe Exotic a little bit.
Oh, man. Tater Reed is one of my favorites, too. Another one that's great that it's an offensive lineman. Any food nickname like Meatball, who's a defensive lineman, or Tater, who's an offensive lineman, you need to play on the line.
Or Kool-Aid.
You need to have your hand in the grass every play if your name is Tater or Meatball, right?
Kool-Aid McKinstry will be at SEC Media Days tomorrow.
Yeah, you're not relying on speed, right? When I hear the name, Parker Titsworth, I'm not sure what position that player should play. Kicker, maybe.
You're saying
he's an offensive lineman.
He sounds like someone that would be in at the library at Duke instead of is it the Duke defensive lineman that I saw on here?
Linebacker, memorable factor.
That's amazing.
And memorable is the first name, and that's not a nickname. Got to be the actual first name.
Haley, your thoughts on Storm Duck? I mean, if your last name's Duck.
I mean, okay, I have to give it to Parker Titsworth's family because you're stuck with a bad last name, and it's like, okay, we'll just give him a normal first name. But with Storm Duck, I mean, you're stuck with Duck. I mean, why couldn't you just do like Chris Duck or something? I don't know. Storm Duck? It's
Christopher
crazy.
Duck.
We'd also like to get your reaction
Christopher
to
Duck.
San Diego State Aztec linebacker New Zealand Williams.
I kind of like that one. I'm not going to lie. I like New Zealand. It's kind of like London as a name or Brooklyn as a name. I kind of like it. I don't hate that one at all.
I'm trying to think of what other countries would make a good first name. If you just want to plug a country in.
Georgia.
Indonesia.
It's a
Would
state and a
Indonesia
country.
Williams work also?
Yes.
Thailand.
I kind of think it's cool.
Thailand Smith.
I'm kind of into that.
Name coming soon.
Saudi.
Snoop.
Snoop.
You and I debated this, Chad. Offensive lineman, and we know he's from the transfer portal and has signed with Auburn recently because they've replaced everyone on offense. Do you believe it's Jaden Muskrat or is it Muskrat?
It's got to be Muskrat. And
It's
if he
gotta be.
dares to try to correct someone and say Muskrat, I am calling BS on him immediately. I'm going to say, son, don't church it up. We all know your name is Jaden Muskrat. This was like me when I tried to convince girls in middle school my name was Chadwick and not Chad. I tried to make it cooler than it was. It is not Muskrat, but that would be hilarious if he tried to sell that.
In all of our talk about the animal names, we forgot Panda out of Charlotte. It's another one.
This was one I thought may be fake. Panda Askew, that is his nickname because growing up, people thought he looked like Panda Sandoval.
Oh, yeah. Pablo Sandoval, the
panda.
Yeah.
Got it.
That makes sense.
But that's listed as in like quotations beside his first name.
Hutton really went down the wormhole here with
I
these
did the
names.
first team.
He just started looking
Yeah,
and
I
saying,
did the
"All right,
first team.
I got to figure out what's
and then
behind these
mobility.
names."
I'm thinking, is this real? Is the transfer portal thing like the joke?
Another one that seems like a joke. Mobility in the transfer portal.
Octavius Oxendine. We know he's at UK.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Good player.
Haley, what would you do if you found a man that was named Fish?
First name Fish, not like Marty Fish, the professional tennis player.
He plays for Trent
First
Dilfer.
name Fish.
I mean, if I'm swiping on a dating app or something, I gotta send that one to the left, and I just have to move on. I can't meet someone named Fish and fall in love. I'm not gonna let myself get to that point.
What if you were on a dating app and you saw the name Major Burns?
It's kind of cool.
Major's pretty cool.
It's kind of cool.
Major Applewhite. There's been some majors out
He
there.
sounds like he's highly decorated, you know? He
Major
might not
Burns
be, but
reporting for duty, man.
he might
Everything's
not
going to
be,
seem
but-
fine, and then when he leaves, there's problems.
Major Burns slides into DM saying, reporting for duty. I'm here. Oh, terrific. There's one name on here I had no idea how to pronounce. Javinsky Schlenbaker from Washington State.
I
There's
think
a
that's
few in there I need someone to pronounce
for honorable
me.
mention.
Yeah. Haley, thank you so much for your
you're
contribution to this all-name team.
Isaiah
This is great.
Bullerdick is also on here.
Yeah. I don't even know if we can say that. I mean, it's
his
a
name.
name. Yeah, you gotta say it.
It's his name.
Just say it all together, I guess, the best way to do it. This one guy's name is Hot Rid, not Hot Rod. I wonder if that was a misspelling. Hot Rid Fitton from South Carolina.
Your favorite one?
My favorite one
Favorite name?
is Dude Person.
I gotta go Rowdy Beers.
Not Rocky?
Nah, I like Rowdy.
Rowdy's better. Like Rowdy Burns from Days of Thunder.
Cavassier Smoke.
That's a good one. That one's cool. That one sounds
Cavassier
cool.
with a cigar. I mean, that's
terrific.
unbelievable. Cavassier Smoke. And there's also, I mean, you've got to live up to the expectation if you're named Cavassier Smoke and if you're being recruited in the SEC and the rabid fan bases that are out there, because Kentucky wasn't the only SEC school to recruit him. You know, on message boards, he's going to the top of the list over guys that are probably have a better star ranking than him just because of his name alone.
I feel like some of these names, I'm with you. I think some of them, they like jumped a recruiting star because of the name. A 2-star became a 3-star. A 3-star became a 4-star. A 4-star became a 5-star just because recruiting outlets saw that name and said, yeah, this guy must ball. There's a clear, like General Booty would not have been highly sought after at quarterback if his name wasn't General Booty. And that just elevated his status to another level. And then he gets to go to Oklahoma for that reason.
And then, you know, who's not on here is Michael Penix Jr., but he's got to also prove some doubters based on the recruitment process.
Another name you got to say very slowly. Michael
or very
Penix
fast.
Jr. Michael Penix.
Or very
Jr. Or very fast and hope that no one catches when you screw it up. Haley did not screw up this segment. Well done, Haley.
Thank
Appreciate
you. Always
you.
a pleasure.
Shout out to Jim Weber as well for supplying the list.
Hutton, at the end of,
let's
do this. At the end of the season, let's go back and look at actual stats of these guys. Then we can really file it out by first and second team on actual play on the field.
Chad, you don't like your first name. Would you like the name Stone Handy? Handy is the last name.
Sounds painful. When we come back, we are going to talk about ESPN and who's to blame for their demise. Stephen A. Smith and Dan Le Batard have different ideas on who is to blame. We'll discuss when we come back. This is Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation, and pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Come on.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the #1 overall pick.
I just think the way Anthony Bass handled this was so sloppy.
Oh, I think it's perfect.
And what he reposted,
he did
and then how
he bent the knee and bowed. He was going to catch the ceremonial first pitch.
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose.
The scary thing, Tommy, is in the history of this government, I've never seen them give anything back that they've taken.
Oh no, they never do.
And they won't.
When you're behind closed doors, when you're talking to plant managers, when you're having meetings, when you're with the team, was there an acknowledgement of any of this, an acknowledgement of the situation, the boycott, and then the doubling down about moving away from the fratty image?
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human being. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it, people. I'm pissed off about this. I never did it before in my life, but Trump is being cheated. The American people are being cheated. We, ladies and gentlemen, are being cheated.
I believe this person is the greatest player anybody alive will ever see. How can you hate Derek Jeter? A guy's on-base percentage tells me his batting eye, and a guy's slugging percentage tells me if he's a threat. That's the kind of guy that throws a no-hitter, that effectively wild guy.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, a bold taste of a Southern legend.
Hour number 2 of Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow starts right now. We got some great coverage for you from SEC Media Days happening right here in Nashville at the Grand Hyatt. We're coming to you live right now from our downtown Nashville studios, 6th and Peabody, with Old Smoky Moonshine and Yeehaw Beer. Plenty to get into. We've got Zach Arnett coming up from Mississippi State head coach, Gary Danielson of CBS later in the show, Tony Barnhart, Trey Wallace of OutKick, who is covering SEC Media Days, all coming up later in today's show. But right now, we want to hit some of the biggest topics of the day, and one of those topics involves a growing beef between current ESPN employee Stephen A. Smith and former ESPN employee Dan Le Batard. Stephen A. Smith went on a podcast of Dan Le Batard's, and Dan expressed his frustration and his hatred of the fact that the embrace debate mantra killed ESPN, and that Stephen A. Smith had a big part in that. Stephen A. Smith came back at Dan Le Batard a bit and now is saying that he needs to go look at his track record with his show, highly questionable, about what was the demise of ESPN. Hutton, I read all this, I hear all this, and I think we got a lot of people acknowledging now that ESPN is having some trouble. And everyone's really quick to point the finger at who's to blame or what's to blame at ESPN. And now you've even got one person who makes a ton of money from ESPN pointing the finger at Dan Le Batard because Dan Le Batard pointed the finger at him. Dan Le Batard, who made a ton of money at ESPN, and I'm sure makes a ton of money now at Meadowlark Media.
Got out just in time.
Got out at the right time, but, you know, throwing shade at his former employer. Not sure what to make of the finger pointing back and forth.
And did it based on the layoffs that happened. He called it the darkest day.
Yeah.
For ESPN. There's a reason why Stephen A. Smith is paid and paid well and why he wasn't a part of those layoffs. And Dan Le Batard had Stephen A. on the Dan Le Batard show and had this to stay with Stephen A. starting things off.
I hate what you two have done to sports television.
You can say that all you want to. I would say, who the hell are you to sit up there and say me and him? What about you? Where the hell were you? Living under a rock, teaching at Miami U? You were a part of it too. You ain't innocent.
I'm talking about all the imitators that you have birthed. All of the imitators that are all over the place thinking without the journalism credentials that the point of all this is to turn it into an argument on television.
Well, I would take umbrage at what you're saying in this regard, Dan. Those people who don't have a journalism background, who don't exercise journalistic ethics and beyond, how are we responsible for that when our background is based on that? Skip Bayless was a journalist for decades. I was a journalist for decades. We come on television and those ethics are applicable. The fact of the matter is that when I take a position, it's the same kind of position I would take writing a column. The difference is instead of writing 800 words and being limited to that space, I get to talk for a few minutes on each subject. When did it happen that I ignored the fact that I was a journalist for the Winston-Salem Journal, the Greensboro News and Record, the New York Daily News, and then the Philadelphia Inquirer, before I went to CNN-SI and then Fox Sports and then ESPN? When did it occur in my career that I ignored the journalistic tenets that came with the job?
Oh, it's not ignoring them. It's that they shrink in the face of the need for the argument as entertainment.
So that is Dan Le Batard and Stephen A. Smith going back and forth. I find myself liking Stephen A. Smith a little bit more the more I hear him talk about issues like this. He made some great points to Dan Le Batard. But, you know, the truth here is both guys have made money off of debate, fake or otherwise, at points in their career.
Well, I understand where Le Batard is coming from on this because it's not as much about Stephen A. and Skip Bayless as it is the other shows
that imitate
that are trying, and there's a reason why they're trying to imitate that is because they get eyeballs, right? But it's fake. I mean, if you like watching something that's manufactured, have at it. A lot of people do. But, I mean, there's also a reason why Skip Bayless and Stephen A. are who they are, and while they cycled through trying to find the right replacement for Skip Bayless whenever he went to FS1, and why it's not easy to find someone to sit down across from Skip Bayless now. Let's also throw this in. This was the era, Chad, where, pardon the interruption, I believe started in 2000, 2001. And if you compare how that show runs versus First Take, which started 2006 or 7, I think, was when things got off the ground. Vastly different in how we view both of those shows right now. Michael Wilbon admitted he doesn't know how to describe his job or who he is now because he's not some shock jock, and he's not going to read off a prompter because some dude in New York told him to, right? He's going to think for himself in D.C. I respect the hell out of that. Stephen A. also does not do that. They're laying off people who do. I mean, Stephen A. is who they're backing based on the longevity, the journalism aspect of it. And when he says something, I don't think he's just reading a headline or reading a story and then regurgitating it as if it's his opinion. There's so many other people that do that. And the reason why they do, and the reason why others try to imitate it, others being not hosts, but bosses telling them to do this, to follow the script of First Take, is because they feel like it's easy to script and manufacture debate. And it's just not. If it's not genuine, I don't care. And I think a lot of people have figured that out, despite the 15-second clips that you'll see on social where someone gets in an uproar, and I'm not really positive if they really care what they're saying or not, if they really mean it or not.
Yeah, look, I'm all for a good media beef when it's legitimate. I think these two guys, it's pretty legitimate with what they're saying and the back and forth there and then how it's continued. Well said, Hutton, on all those points. I would also say we had someone in the YouTube chat earlier say that it's not punishing people for sharing far left-wing politics on air is what's ruined ESPN. I would change that and reiterate what Merrill Hodge said when he was on this show. It's the fact that ESPN, it's not about not punishing someone. They promoted it. I mean, Merrill Hodge outlined there was a meeting in 2005 or 2006 around there where they said, hey, we have the sports fan. We're going to go after other things now. There's no way we can lose our sports base. They're going to be there no matter what we do, no matter what we say. So we're going to get more political. We're going to get more into entertainment. We're going to do more of this. Now, when you force that, much like forcing and manufacturing debate, and then you try to bring that back because you see that doesn't work, and you punish one side and not the other, that does lead to problems for ESPN. But I would argue it's not the fact that they wouldn't punish someone for talking politics or sharing a political statement on air. It's the fact they promoted it. And ultimately, Hutton, they got away from who they were. They got away from what built them into a giant in the sports world. They lost their way. They started reading their own headlines. They bought into their own BS. And because of that, they've suffered some.
Well, but let's just be honest with it, too. They became the people that want to rub elbows and talk shop with all the celebrity athletes at the ESPYs. That's why they throw that. So they can get behind closed doors and fly everyone in and celebrate, all things ESPN.
Themselves.
And then whenever you're, now in that group, you're going to promote that group's way of thinking and all the causes and initiatives behind it. But I don't think Stephen A. is to blame. He's a part of what was a massive era for that network, on in the middle of the day and crushing it. And right now, you can get ESPN Plus cheaper than you can ESPN on a cable bill. You're paying roughly $9 per month if you have cable, satellite, whatever, and you have ESPN. If you cut the cord, you can have ESPN digital for $2 less per month. That's an issue for ESPN that they've got to figure out.
Yeah, and I think what makes ESPN successful, and has for a long time, this is me personally talking, it's the games. They're some of the best at doing the games, broadcasting them, bringing them to us, bringing them to our house. They're very, very good at games. But now, Hutton, those games are becoming too expensive to them because of the rights fees to the league. And that may be where we've plateaued a bit with media rights.
Maybe.
And how much media companies are going to pay if this continues to be an issue for Disney, their parent company.
But also think like they have stuck with First Take. They have stuck with Pardon the Interruption for a reason. I'm thinking of the other shows that are by the wayside now.
Yeah, highly questionable. is one of them. Dan Lebatard's old show.
They had
anything with Bomani Jones they've tried.
SC6 or whatever they tried. They tried to roll it. The audience that does tune in to those programs that they've kept around
is loyal.
Well, not just loyal, but they understand what's good and what's not. They understand when you're trying to fake it. And I don't respect it at all. I respect Stephen A. and Skip because I actually feel like they're putting the work in behind the scenes and not just trying to get credit for being good. There's too much of that.
Yeah, there's
too
a lot
much of that. People looking for the credit and the glory instead of just busting your ass. That just does not happen anymore. Everyone wants a parade around the city for a certain number.
Well, and just be good.
It has nothing to do with accuracy or honesty.
Yeah, and to me it's about you're good or you're not. You work or you don't. But be good. Hire good people to be good on their shows, on air, and do not force them into something that they don't want to do. I think when you do that, and I do think ESPN fell victim to this, the way Merrill Hodge described, I think it comes across as fake.
Yes.
As phony when someone's forced into something.
They also lost their personality.
Yeah.
Because in the heyday, even while First Take and Pardon the Eruption were on, you knew the SportsCenter anchors.
Well, Dan Patrick's a great example who he probably got too famous for what ESPN wanted. And he was able to go out and be a huge success on his own, and ESPN didn't like that.
Well,
because he was so famous for how good he was on SportsCenter.
But really the only guy I think right now that would be known is Scott Van Pelt. Right? They kept around Neil Everett. They kept I believe it was Stan Everett maybe.
Stan Verrett.
Stan Verrett.
Yeah, Verrett.
And Neil Everett, who just left. I mean, a lot of the quote unquote anchors are not there, and it's just kind of a silhouette of someone reading a prompter. Because the news doesn't matter. Manufactured debate is what they're after. Just to get eyeballs.
Yeah.
And they don't have enough of it right now, which is why they had the layoffs.
It's frustrating, and I think it's multi-tiered, the problems with ESPN that we could spend entire shows discussing. I think we've hit on some of the issues now. Phony, manufactured stuff, mixed with being overly political on one side and then punishing those on the other side and not on one, turning off a majority of sports fans across the country.
Yeah.
A lot of them turned off by that. There's no doubt that that's been one of the issues. And the other are just exploding rights fees. And when you have all the sports and you're paying for all the rights fees to all the sports and you're spending a ton of money to produce those games the way they do, because they do a good job producing those games,
they do.
It becomes too costly and not profitable at all, where for years they could print money and they were very profitable.
Unless you have football, the NFL, and then the top tier college version, right? Big Ten, SEC.
Yeah.
That's where you can actually print some dollars and bring in money on the college football playoff.
So,
ESPN also has that.
And someone else who has strong opinions is Skip Bayless.
He's keeping his name out there right now.
Skip Bayless is on a real tear. He delivered this in front of what looked to be his garage door. I have no idea.
After a workout.
What exactly the video. Yeah, he's in sweatpants and a workout shirt. No chain this time. No chain for the over 70, right? Isn't he over 70?
He's like 71, I think.
I think, Skip Bayless.
It's crazy.
But he is saying that LeBron manipulated the media, and he's one of the great manipulators in the history of sports. And he manipulated the media into talking about his retirement, essentially to deflect from his failures on the court in a 4-game sweep against the Nuggets. I mean, I didn't know that.
The champions.
I was not aware that LeBron James was L. Ron Hubbard and some master manipulator, or the Philip Seymour Hoffman character from The Master, the Paul Thomas Anderson film. I was not aware that he had these powers over people to manipulate everyone into talking about retirement with him.
I don't think anyone thinks he's actually retiring, right?
Yeah.
But he's at a point in his career where it's being discussed, but he's not slowing down. I mean, the numbers he's putting up at his age are remarkable, considering how much he's played, how deep into the playoffs practically every team he's been a part of go. And where they were, midway through the season this year compared to where they ended up?
For a big chunk of the season.
Yeah. Other than load management, I mean, we came in and discussed what he had to say whenever they were ousted in 4 games. But we said at the time we didn't think that he was retiring. I think he wants to go out doing something on the same roster with his son.
Yeah, I think we thought that for a while. And he's just one of those sports figures that he's become so divisive that Skip Bayless, who hates him, has long been anti-LeBron James.
But Bayless, by bringing him up, also makes himself relevant when he's not on TV currently.
Yeah, but Bayless saying these things about him, and I agree with you on that. He's falling right in line with those who love Michael Jordan and hate LeBron James would say about LeBron James and his fourth quarter performances in that 4-game sweep to Denver. There's nothing different there. My point is there are a lot of LeBron defenders for everything in NBA media. And this falls right in line with there's not enough people who will give you an honest opinion, sometimes good and sometimes bad about someone. It's either all good or it's all bad.
And I don't remember LeBron at the podium.
Everyone falls into their little camps, and they talk about every subject matter, every player, black and white, good or bad, never anything in the middle.
Did LeBron even mention the word retirement at the podium?
I don't think so.
I believe, from what I recall, he said something about he's got some things to think about and figure out in the offseason before thinking about next year.
Yeah.
He's alluding to it, but the media put the word retirement out there.
Because they were manipulated. Because he's the great manipulator, according to 71-year-old Skip Bayless. Zach Arnett is not 71. He is Mississippi State head coach. He's next.
Of male advantage plaguing women's sports, it only recently came to light, I feel like, for so many, including myself. I was really only became aware of this when I was slapped across the face with it in regards to Leah Thomas. But as you alluded to, this is something that you had experience of. You were well ahead of your time. I mean, 43 years ago, you saw this. And so would you be able to touch on what that experience looked like competing against the East Germans?
And we would have East German athletes turning up to things like even like the Olympics, and we'd never, ever seen them before. And they would literally arrive and smash world records. They looked and sounded like, very masculine. They had deep voices, very large Adam apple, bad skin, through no fault of their own. I've never had a problem with these individuals. They were pawns of a horrible system. The people I have a big problem with is the IOC. And they allowed this to happen for 20 years. They even had East German doctors sitting on international doping panels. So every time we came up with a way to try and catch them, they would find a way to avoid being caught. And this was allowed to go on for 2 decades. So imagine the number of females that missed out. However, those females only missed out at international competitions, and they predominantly missed out in swimming, track and field, and rowing. What we've got now is 10 times worse, because this is happening across every single sport, at every single level, in every single country. So I've been pushing very hard to say, right, we need to have a female classification, however that looks. Me, ideally, I'd love to bring back sex tests. And then an open and inclusive category so that everyone is still welcome in sport. Because just like you, I'm sure, you want people to do sport. You want people to be physically active, to be healthy, because it helps us, both our body and our minds, and in a world at the moment with mental health, particularly in young girls, through the roof, we need people to be physically active. So it's the last thing in the world I would ever want to do is to ban anyone from sports. I just want to protect the opportunities for people that are biologically female to have equal chance of being able to win medals, put successes onto their onto their CV going forward, get university scholarships, get places on teams, be proud of records that they set, whatever it is. Females are worthy of equal opportunity. We are not second-class citizens, and I'm not prepared to sit back and pretend that we are. So,
amen. Oh my gosh, it's so true. There is no compromise for women. There is nothing that we should have to give up to ensure that trans athletes can compete. But that being said, trans athletes shouldn't be banned from sports. Of course not. And that's something that we see in the States a lot, especially in regards to state legislature being pushed. The opposition, they always say this is an anti-trans bill that bans trans athletes from competing. And that's simply not true. I love how you mentioned it equips people with the right information, with effective messaging, how to communicate about it, what to do. Really powerful. You mentioned in your book, you had a quote, I think it's from Cynthia Millen, and it says bodies compete against bodies, gender identities don't swim, which is that's the basis of the argument.
How do we marshal feelings? It's ridiculous. You know, if we turn around and say that we're going to accept a feeling that says someone can feel like a male or a female depending on their feeling, not the reality of their body, where does that stop? You know, what's the next feeling that's going to trump a reality? And we're not doing our kids any favors by not dealing with the truth. You know, it's by telling young children that they're going to be able to change sex when they're not. They're going to have to take medication for the rest of their life. They're going to have to do things to their bodies which will probably shorten their lives.
We're back. Mississippi State head coach Zach Arnett, first-year head coach, taking over after the sudden loss of life by Mike Leach. Difficult circumstances. New head coach of the Bulldogs will join us about 5 minutes from now. Longtime head coach Hutton of the New England Patriots, Bill Belichick, reportedly on the hot seat. And this is not just some small-time blogger up in New Hampshire writing this about Bill Belichick. Tom Curran, who's very well respected, who's covered the Patriots for a long time, is saying there is legitimacy to the fact that he's on the hot seat with Robert Kraft, because there's some thought out there that he really can't get it done without Tom Brady.
Tom Curran of NBC Sports Boston, I believe now, but has
been there for a while.
Like you said, a longtime Patriots insider, along with Mike Reese, who also referred to the demands of what we're seeing from Robert Kraft and what we have seen from Robert Kraft, and he wants to make the playoffs and win a game for the first time in 5 years. Where there's smoke, there's fire. I think this comes down to, more than anything, the relationship between the owner and the head coach. Him getting fired, to me, is hard to see. This would be a retirement / I'm a coach and it's time to try something else, and he and Kraft jointly, shake hands and move on. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Kind of the same way Kraft did with Brady. I think he would handle it publicly the same way. It's clear behind the scenes things are just odd. They're off. Because Reese said that, there's definitely something going on there with conversations that Kraft is saying, you've got to do this. They bring in O'Brien after the failed offensive and defensive coordinator experiment last year, or bringing in a DC and a special teams coach as a background to call plays for Mac Jones, who Belichick had fall to him at pick 15 2 years ago. And now Curran is saying, he's on the hot seat this year. And this goes back to 2019, which was Brady's final year, and Brady didn't play well that year. I was on the sidelines as Brady threw his final pass in that stadium as a Patriot. It was an interception returned for a touchdown. He sucked. They put up 14 points, I believe, that game. It looked like he was done. It didn't look like he was going to another team and going to revive whatever was going on, and he did. And we haven't seen that same energy from the Patriots organization since Brady left. But Belichick's the GOAT. And I don't see the GOAT being fired by an organization where he's brought all of those Super Bowl rings. And when you walk into the stadium, all you see are the banners of the championship since the 2000s.
Well, and
all of the players go in for warm-ups and look up and count them.
There's no denying the ring count with Bill Belichick, right? I'm not going to sit here and try to poke holes in it. But is he the GOAT, or was he part of the GOAT partnership, which was Belichick, Brady together, and what they built and what they could lead together? I mean, how much longer? If it's another year and they don't go to the playoff, if it's 2 years, if it's 3 years, at what point would we legitimately say, Bill Belichick really can't get it done without Tom Brady?
Well, but I think it's also just it's both of them. They built the Patriot way. And whatever way they chose to go last year was bizarre. And this feels like friction based on that with a young quarterback that did not develop like you're supposed to develop in year 2. They set him back. Now he's got O'Brien, but they're to a point. DeAndre Hopkins, Chad, and Belichick have a massive respect for one another. Belichick loves him. The Patriots could not land him. Hopkins came to the Titans instead of the Patriots with a young QB there. And here in Nashville, where he chose to play, Tannehill's on his final season with the franchise. That says a lot, too, because there are reports today that New England tried to match whatever offer Tennessee gave, and Hopkins still chose to play in Nashville.
Well, a nice tie into this NFL training camp starting today for some teams. Teams with the rookies reporting today: Atlanta, Baltimore, Buffalo, KC, the Chargers, Miami, New Orleans, San Francisco. Have they always done it where it's split in terms of when teams start?
So you can choose to bring your rookies in a week before.
Okay.
Most camps are going to begin July 25th. The Chiefs and the Lions will begin a bit earlier than that because they're on Thursday Night Football, so they start their season early. And then the two teams.
I knew that exception with the team starting on Thursday.
Jets and Browns training camp begin tomorrow full because they're in the Hall of Fame game. So there are a lot of rules to this, but the rookies can report a week earlier if you want them to. A lot of the teams just bring everybody in. The coaches are coming off vacation. Vrabel's playing out at Lake Tahoe over the weekend. Like they just use the extra week because it's more about making sure guys stay healthy than anything else. And they've spent all offseason with the rookies trying to get them up to speed for camp. Most of them are backups anyway.
Really good for interest that the Jets get started a week early because of that Hall of Fame game, right?
Oh, and with Hard Knocks?
With Hard Knocks, but with Rodgers. Now the clock starts with them now.
With
a good
practice,
thing.
but no, he's definitely not playing in that game.
Hutton, a little earlier today, I caught up with our second SEC head coach in as many days.
Yeah, so he's one of the top assistant coaches in college football, finalist for that award. Now he's the head coach at Mississippi State, taking over for the late Mike Leach, where he says there's no chance in hell that he could duplicate what Leach meant to college football.
SEC Media Days coverage continues from the Grand Hyatt Hotel downtown Nashville. I'm Chad Withrow. This is Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow. And we are joined now by new Mississippi State head coach, Zach Arnett. Coach, appreciate you sitting down with us. What's the whole car wash been like for you, the first go-through? A little bit different, being here. I'm sure for the first time, very different.
Yeah, it's a unique experience, to say the least. I haven't had to make my opening statement yet, right? So I'm kind of getting they're being nice. They're giving me a little appetizer here, introduction. But thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
What is your preparation level for your opening statement, your first one here? What is the game plan as you start to prepare for that?
Well, Coach Leach set a pretty high bar for me to top last year. It's 7 words, so I don't think I'm going to be successful in making it shorter than he was.
Yeah.
So
it's amazing because the circumstances you step into are obviously very unique and very different and tragic compared to other head coaches taking over for a legend in Mike Leach who passed away. Is there a playbook for that? Were there people that you called on and how to handle it? What was the mental approach as you started this task of taking over for a head coach who passed away?
Yeah, you mentioned obviously Coach Leach was a legend, right? His fingerprints are all over the game, particularly on the offensive side of the ball, over his last 20, 25 years. When I took over, again, it was right before early signing day. We had a bowl game coming up. So simply put, we kind of just set 3 priorities. Obviously, number 1 was be there for our players, for our locker room. You're talking about young men who just lost their head coach, their leader. And so priority number 1 was to provide any support, anything we could to help them get through that. Obviously, us as coaches, job number 2, we had a job to do. We had a signing class to keep together. Obviously, it could have fallen apart. Great job by the assistant coaches and by the players in our locker room. It's often said that players in your locker room are your best recruiters. So tremendous job by everyone in the program, reinforcing those relationships, all the reasons why young men and their families chose to commit to Mississippi State in the first place and why that was the best fit for them and their development. And I'm proud to say we went on to sign a consensus top 25 recruiting class. And then priority number 3 was we had a football game ahead of us, right? We're going down on what is a New Year's Day game. It was on January 2nd, playing a tremendous Illinois team. They had a great year. And we had an opportunity to win 9 games for only 10th time in school history and for the 4th time in the last 9 years. And our players did just that, right? They blocked out all the noise. They went to work. They knew the best way to honor Coach Leach and his legacy was to have a football team who showed up prepared, ready to compete, ready to play because we knew that's what our opponent was going to be, and it was a heck of a football game, and we won it in the end. And that was the best way we could honor Coach Leach.
What does it say about your program, your staff, and those players who committed to you guys that recruiting class didn't fall apart? Because I think that surprised, people to some extent that you were able to hold it together. What is the statement there?
I think it says there are a lot of really good things about Mississippi State and Starkville, Mississippi than just Coach Leach. Obviously, of course, he was a tremendous reason why a lot of recruits, right, committed in the first place. But there's a lot of reasons you go to university and spend the next 4 or 5 years of your life developing there, other than just the head coach. Right? I mean, you go somewhere where you can see yourself living and being year-round for those 4 to 5 years. Most importantly, right, you want to go around a locker room where you fit in with the other guys, because those are going to spend the most of your time with. Right? Some of your deepest relationships, right, are your college teammates. You're in their wedding later in life, right? You celebrate the birth of a first child. And so, again, that's a credit to the guys in our locker room, right, reinforcing all those reasons and why recruits wanted to come there in the first place. Yes, Coach Leach was a big part of that, but there's many other reasons.
New Mississippi State head coach Zach Arnett, our guest on Hot Mic. I think the assumption would have been, with Mike Leach being this offensive guru, whoever took over for him would be an offensive coordinator on the offensive side of the ball. You come in as a defensive coordinator, now taking over this program. How does the offense change, if at all, under your leadership now and what you want to bring to the program?
Yeah, obviously, as a defense coach, you know that every defense has a weakness, right? It has a strength and a weakness. And the best, most explosive offenses do a really good job of identifying those weaknesses and exploiting them. Right? Kevin Barbe, he's been one of the best in the country at doing just that at the places he's been. I really admire, talked to a lot of different people in the interview process. Very first question, hey, what is your identity on offense? What's it going to look like? And he simply said, well, I can't tell you that until I know our best 11 players are. Right? Because at the end of the day, you got to get the best 11 players on the field, and you got to get them in the right place so that you can create space and get the ball in your most explosive player's hand. There's a lot of ways to do that on the offensive side of the ball. Spread you out sideline to sideline and 4 wide receiver sets and empty and call yourself air raid, right? Be more pro style where you have the ability to play with tight ends. You're getting more formation variety, shifts, motions, right? You can get more condensed formations. So there's a lot of ways to go about doing that, but
and you get to do it with Will Rogers, a quarterback who's thrown for a lot of yards and seen a lot of things. What's the luxury in having Will Rogers with that experience coming back and how prolific he's been?
Well, the luxury is we got the quarterback in the conference coming back with the most starts in the SEC than any quarterback in the league, right? He's a SEC career completions record holder. He holds 29 school individual passing records.
Not bad.
Simply put, right? I mean, simply put, if he would have put his name in the transfer portal, he could have gone anywhere in the country. I mean, experience is so valuable. You see it all over the place in the way people recruit in transfer portal. Just getting guys who have lined up and played college football, there's value in that. Well, we got the most experienced quarterback coming back, and that's a heck of a luxury to have, like you just mentioned.
Greg Sankey opened his remarks talking about NIL and the future of college football. Transfer portal, a big part of that right now. How important is the transfer portal to you? Not just seeing what's in there, but trying to prevent your guys from going into the portal, like you mentioned with Will Rogers, not leaving Mississippi State.
Yeah, I think we're really proud. I think it speaks a lot about the veteran players in our program, a number of them who had really impact years last year, who could have went in the portal. The fact that they decided to come back, I think that says volumes about how they feel about our program and the direction it's headed. Like you said, the transfer portal obviously can be a resource to, if you need immediate depth to come in and compete for playing time. That's one avenue to do that. We have a tremendous junior college system in the state of Mississippi. We really believe if we hammer our recruiting footprint, we can get the best players in the state of Mississippi coming to Mississippi State every year, right? And we have a program that pours everything we have into their development. They're not going to want to leave and go to the transfer portal because we can win. We can win a whole lot of games. It's going to be a heck of a place to play, and everyone knows Starkville's a special place. We got about the most loyal fan base in all college sports.
We got another SEC program in the state where the head coach is going to say things in Lane Kiffin. He's going to tweet it. He's going to talk about it. Do you plan on engaging Lane Kiffin when he decides to tweet or to talk about you, your program, or about Ole Miss?
I'm not the most active guy on social media by any means, so I'll let him handle that space. Coach Kiffin's a tremendous, tremendous coach. Obviously, you've seen his football teams, tremendous offensive play caller, have nothing but the utmost respect for how his football teams play. And, yeah, hopefully we'll have some good battles.
You know, different circumstances, but David Braun taking over at Northwestern and an abrupt, quick move as head coach. Different, obviously, but you take over in an abrupt way quickly as a head coach. I'm curious, has he reached out to you? Have you guys spoken about that transition at all since he's taken over at Northwestern?
No, I haven't. I've never spent any time coaching up in that area of the country.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious just about, having to take over in difficult circumstances. Is there a lesson from what happened at Northwestern with Pat Fitzgerald? Is there something you take back to your team and talk about that you note as a head coach moving forward?
Well, I think first you got to be yourself, right? Obviously, you can't just try to replicate. In my case, I can't try to just copy Mike Leach. Right?
Of course.
I mean, he's one of a kind. He's a pretty unique guy. It would come off as phony. In regards to Coach Braun, like you mentioned, he got a lot on his plate right now. He's working. He's burning the candle at both ends.
Yeah.
So he got a lot more important things going on his day than calling me and listening to my advice. Heck, I only played one game as head coach, so he's got a lot of other better resources he can reach out to and get advice and experience from.
Zach Arnett getting ready for his appearance at SEC Media Days in the big ballroom. New head coach at Mississippi State has been our guest. Really appreciate it. Thanks for hopping on with us. Best of luck moving forward. In difficult circumstances to get this head coaching opportunity, but here you are, a head coach in the best conference in America. Not too bad at your age to be here doing this. So congratulations on the job. Best of luck this season.
Hey, thank you very much. Hail State.
We'll be back with more. This is Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation, and pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Come on.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the #1 overall pick.
I just think the way Anthony Bass handled this was so sloppy.
Oh, I think it's perfect.
And what he reposted and how he did it.
He bent the knee and bowed. He was going to catch the ceremonial first pitch.
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose.
The scary thing, Tommy, is in the history of this government, I've never seen them give anything back that they've taken.
Oh no, they never do.
And they won't.
When you're behind closed doors, when you're talking to plant managers, when you're having meetings, when you're with the team, was there an acknowledgement of any of this, an acknowledgement of the situation, the boycott, and then the doubling down about moving away from the fratty image?
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human being. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it, people. I'm pissed off about this. I never did it before in my life, but Trump is being cheated. The American people are being cheated. We, ladies and gentlemen, are being cheated.
I believe this person is the greatest player anybody alive will ever see. How can you hate Derek Jeter? A guy's on-base percentage tells me his batting eye, and a guy's slugging percentage tells me if he's a threat. That's the kind of guy that throws a no-hitter, that effectively wild guy.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Old taste of a Southern legend.
Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow coming to you live downtown Nashville, 6th and Peabody Studios with Old Smoky Moonshine, Yeehaw Beer. A lot going on in Nashville right now, headlined by SEC Media Days. Hutton, we were over there this morning. Business picked up today at Media Days. Georgia and Kirby Smart speaking to the media. Mississippi State, you just heard from head coach Zach Arnett, who joined the show.
And then
Auburn and Vanderbilt were the other two teams today.
Saban's in town tomorrow.
Yes.
And then Tennessee, Ole Miss will also be.
Tennessee, Ole Miss, South Carolina on the final day.
It's a big
for the
day.
three teams. And tomorrow, Alabama, Arkansas, and I'll figure out the other two teams eventually. But you know what? Tomorrow's
Missouri.
tomorrow. Tomorrow's tomorrow.
Okay,
We'll worry about it
That's
then.
right.
But a lot more activity at SEC Media Days today, especially with Kirby Smart addressing the media.
Yeah, and Kirby Smart, you said, did a great job of showing everyone how he's wonderful in a living room recruiting for
Great
the University
recruiting
of Georgia.
pitch, would be a good motivational speaker, talked about the books on leadership that he's read, did a good job laying out. He came up and he joked that their SID said he had 10 minutes and no more to address the media. So he's like, I put an alarm here for 10 minutes so I don't go too far over. But then he said when he was done, well, I lied. I did, in fact, go over.
They've got plenty of time. They've got all day if they want, right?
They've got plenty of time. He's going for a third straight national championship.
He says he's worried more about complacency than he is this dynasty
He
talk.
said so many coaches don't want to talk about it because, we're always hungry. And he said, we need to talk about it because that's a real thing that could happen when you've won consecutive national titles. We're trying to make sure complacency does not set in.
Well, and they have a chance to, up the ante a bit offensively to match that defense that we've seen. New quarterback,
Yeah. Well, quarterback, huge question in Tuscaloosa, right, at Alabama. Only 5 quarterbacks here for SEC Media Days right now. That shows you the star power at the quarterback position, not really there this year in the SEC.
Or there's battles that they want to at least act like are battles going into camp.
Hutton, I talked to someone a little bit earlier today that knows a lot about quarterback play in the SEC.
Yes, and I know you talked with him about both Georgia and Alabama. Chad had the chance earlier today at SEC Media Days to sit down with Mr. College Football, Tony Barnhart.
SEC Media Days coverage continues in the Grand Hyatt Hotel downtown Nashville here on Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow. Chad Withrow here and joined now by a legend in coverage of the SEC, Mr. College Football himself, Tony Barnhart, the man. He's a Renaissance man. He's always busy. We've got a book to talk about. Tony, I appreciate you hopping on with us. I know you're also here with the Dodd Trophy presented by PNC. What separates this award for coaches in college football from the others?
Chad, obviously to win a Coach of the Year award, you got to win a lot of games.
Yep.
And we all understand that. But the Dodd Trophy presented by PNC is different in the sense that, well, first of all, there's an academic component to it. Your team has to have an APR of 980 or better to qualify to get on the watch list, okay? I think the best example of how this Coach of the Year award is a little bit different than some of the others. There's community service involved there. What do your players do? But Willie Fritz from Tulane was our winner last year, and one of the things that we do, I'm on the board of the Bobby Dodd Coach of the Year Foundation. And one of the things we do after we pick the winner, we go to campus and present the award at a banquet on campus. He's honored there. And Willie Fritz was our winner. And we went to Tulane, and we were staying in downtown New Orleans. They bussed us out to campus, to the stadium where we were going to have the dinner there in their suite. And when we got there, all the members of the Tulane team were there wearing their jerseys to greet us and sort of escort us around and show us things. And that was really neat. It's a wonderful Coach of the Year award, and I'm very proud to have my name attached to it.
We'll talk about your latest book here momentarily as well, but I know you were in the ballroom when Kirby Smart was talking.
Mm-hmm.
I was in there as well. Not a lot of questions to answer about on-field production.
Sure.
Back-to-back national championships, but a lot going on with that program in the offseason. I thought he did a good job of presenting in a way that sidestepped some of the issues while answering the question about the super speeder violations and the tragedy at Georgia. What do you think currently about that Georgia program and Kirby Smart and what's being done and what needs to be done?
Well, what they're doing is they're going through. So look, there's so many things that we need to backtrack and make sure that we have policies in place to try that hope this never happens again. Obviously, the speeding thing is something they've got to work on. And as Kirby Smart said, we have speeding tickets, but are you a super speeder? Somebody who's 50 miles an hour over the limit. So they've got work to do. But here's the thing. There really is no instruction manual on telling you how to handle these kind of situations. And I think Georgia is doing what they can, but frankly, they need to do better. That's what I've said publicly is I think they are trying, but this is something you've got to get a handle on because lives are at stake.
Well, I don't think anyone would argue that Jimbo Fisher needs to do better with his contract and what's gone on at A&M. What did you make of his media appearance here at Media Days where he just wouldn't answer that Bobby Petrino is calling plays?
I don't know.
We talked to Billy Lucci from Texags, and he said, I don't know why he wouldn't say it because he is going to be calling plays. What did you make of that, and what do you think about Bobby Petrino with Jimbo Fisher?
First of all, the idea is a very good one because one thing that's evolved is we've all learned from watching the game, you can't be the head coach and coach one side of the ball. Steve Spurrier did it, and that's about it, all right? And so, first of all, it's hard to do. There's too much going on during the course of the game. There's too much going on in your program. You need to turn it over to somebody who knows what they're doing. What I've said about Bobby Petrino is like the guy, don't like the guy, whatever. The guy can call ball plays, and he can coach quarterbacks, which is something Texas A&M really needs. And so I don't know why Jimbo – I guess he doesn't want the optics of him saying, well, yeah, I'm really happy that for the first time in 100 years I'm not calling plays for my team. And so that was befuddling why he would take that approach. So I hope that's not an indicator of the way the season's going to go.
Yeah, not a great start for sure.
Well, what I've said, it's either going to be a rousing success or an unmitigated disaster.
And because the egos of those guys coming into it, that was the initial thing. There's no doubting Bobby Petrino's offensive acumen. It was, can these guys come together and truly collaborate, and will Jimbo Fisher be okay with handing over that responsibility to someone else, right?
And as the old coach said, it remains to be seen.
Absolutely. Something else that remains to be seen, quarterback situation at Alabama, and kind of going back to Georgia also, replacing Stetson Bennett. You wouldn't think when he got there that would be a big deal, but it is a big deal with all the success he had. And at Alabama, Tony, is it simply plug and play, next guy up, and they'll keep rolling along, or are there bigger issues there?
Well, I don't think it's plug and play. Now, we don't know if Jalen Milroe is the answer. I mean, it looks like it. But here's the thing about Alabama. Alabama hasn't had good quarterback play the last 5 or 6 years. They've had elite quarterback play at a very, very high standard. And I don't know that, is it Milroe? I'm always a little nervous when a team adds a quarterback after spring practice. That tells me he wasn't really happy with the level of the competitiveness in that room. So I think it remains to be seen. Having said all that, I like this Alabama team. I think they've got a chance to win the West, even though a lot of people are going to pick LSU. And so, but it really is going to come down to quarterback play, because today, used to be you could get by with an average quarterback if you were good everywhere else. You can't do that anymore. You've got to have an elite quarterback. A quarterback that plays at an elite level. And I don't know if Alabama's got that guy or not.
Mr. College Football himself, Tony Barnhart, is our guest here on Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow. The Northwestern situation with Pat Fitzgerald. What's the lesson with that story? Is there a big takeaway? And this could be either from the university side and how it was handled, which I think it was handled pretty poorly, and also the Pat Fitzgerald side of this. What is your big takeaway?
Well, first of all, it has to be made clear from the very top. And when I mean the very top, I mean the president of the university, that it will not be tolerated. You can no longer have this boys will be boys, animal house, frat house kind of thing. Listen, I went through moments like this when I was a student, when I was a fraternity guy. We used to call it Hell Week. But in our culture today, that cannot be tolerated on any level. You know, I don't know what Pat Fitzgerald did or what he didn't do. All I know is after they doing their preliminary investigation, they decided to make a change. The other thing that they totally botched it, I think the president of the university botched it. And all of a sudden he looks up and goes, we may have a real problem here. And you know what? If I don't deal with this as president, I'm vulnerable. And that's why, and I think ultimately that's why he changed his mind and dismissed him.
I see Mississippi State new head coach Zach Arnett over here, so it makes me think about new coaches in the conference. What are you most anticipating of the new hires in this league, of seeing how things work out in year one? Obviously, Coach Arnett taking over for a legend in Mike Leach.
Well, two things. First of all, Coach Arnett has got a task that nobody would want, and that's replacing a popular coach who died way too early. But what's interesting is he's got a quarterback who threw for almost 4,000 yards, and guess what? They're not going to throw the ball as much. I think as a defensive coach, you understand if you want to shorten the game to give your defense a chance to rest. So how that all works out will be fascinating. I don't know what to think of Auburn and Hugh Freeze. I mean, my experience with Hugh Freeze is that once he gets the quarterback position figured out, then the rest of it seems to fall into place, every place he's been. But I don't know what he's going to do. Here again, here's another coach that added a quarterback to his roster after spring practice, which is never a good sign. So I'm anxious to see how, that pans out.
Have we reached the ceiling of Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss and what he's capable of accomplishing there, or is there another level to get to?
I think there's another level to get to. It was a bizarre situation to start 7-0, and then all of a sudden the Auburn rumors start flying up, and you part of you went, wow, you're not going to pay attention to that. Well, something went wrong after 7-0.
Yep.
And that you have to believe that was a factor. But I think Ole Miss, I think under Lane Kiffin, there's another level that they can absolutely get to. Because, listen, here's something else. Regardless of how you feel about Lane Kiffin, the guy can call plays and he can develop quarterbacks.
No doubt.
He has proven that he can do that. And so it'll be interesting to see, though, where Ole Miss fits into that pecking order in the SEC West, because it's Alabama and LSU, and then the middle class is alive and well from there on. But I just don't know how that's going to pan out.
So the 19 of Green, Football, Friendship, and Change in the Fall of 1970, your latest book. What can you tell us about this? Obviously a football theme for Mr. College Football.
Well, the fall of 1970, about 1 million years ago, I was a senior in high school at Greene County High School in Greensboro, Georgia. If you're in Atlanta and you get on I-20 going east towards Augusta, when you're about halfway there, you jump off the interstate, and that's where I grew up and went to school. In the fall of 1970, the courts said once and for all, the schools of the state of Georgia will be fully integrated. And so that happened, and so as a result, we combined the schools, we combined our two football teams, and we were all excited. We said, man, we'll have 50 guys on our football team. When spring practice was over, we had 19 players. Wow. 12 white, 7 black, and that was it. And we went on to play the season. The good news is we won 7 out of our last 8. We won our division championship. We played for the region championship, and it was a very successful season that sort of bonded the community. But the story of the 19 of Green, and it comes from the Greene County High School, and we only had 19 players. The story of the 19 of green isn't how many games we won. The story is that 52 years after the fact, my quarterback, Charles Turner, is one of my best friends. I have a charity golf tournament. He plays in mine, and he has a charity golf tournament, and I play in his. We have lunch every now and then, and we have stayed in touch. And the neat thing about it is Charles Turner and I grew up 3 miles apart. And we never met until we were both seniors in high school and the schools merged.
Can't wait to read it, Tony. Appreciate you stopping by. Have fun the rest of SEC Media Days, and hopefully we get a chance to chat soon.
All right, Chad. It's always good to be with you.
Tony Barnhart, Mr. College Football himself. Show rolls on. This is Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow.
Of male advantage plaguing women's sports, it only recently came to light, I feel like, for so many, including myself. I was really only became aware of this when I was slapped across the face with it in regards to Leah Thomas. But as you alluded to, this is something that you had experience of. You were well ahead of your time. I mean, 43 years ago, you saw this. And so would you be able to touch on what that experience looked like competing against the East Germans?
And we would have East German athletes turning up to things like, even like the Olympics, and we'd never, ever seen them before. And they would literally arrive and smash world records. They looked and sounded like, very masculine. They had deep voices, very large Adam apple, bad skin, through no fault of their own. I've never had a problem with these individuals. They were pawns of a horrible system. The people I have a big problem with is the IOC. And they allowed this to happen for 20 years. They even had East German doctors sitting on international doping panels. So every time we came up with a way to try and catch them, they would find a way to avoid being caught. And this was allowed to go on for 2 decades. So imagine the number of females that missed out. However, those females only missed out at international competitions, and they predominantly missed out in swimming, track and field, and rowing. What we've got now is 10 times worse, because this is happening across every single sport, at every single level, in every single country. So I've been pushing very hard to say, right, we need to have a female classification, however that looks. Me, ideally, I'd love to bring back sex tests. And then an open and inclusive category so that everyone is still welcome in sport. Because just like you, I'm sure, you want people to do sport. You want people to be physically active, to be healthy, because it helps us, both our body and our minds, and in a world at the moment with mental health, particularly in young girls, through the roof, we need people to be physically active. So it's the last thing in the world I would ever want to do is to ban anyone from sports. I just want to protect the opportunities for people that are biologically female to have equal chance of being able to win medals, put successes onto their onto their CV going forward, get university scholarships, get places on teams, be proud of records that they set, whatever it is. Females are worthy of equal opportunity. We are not second-class citizens, and I'm not prepared to sit back and pretend that we are. So,
amen. Oh my gosh, it's so true. There is no compromise for women. There is nothing that we should have to give up to ensure that trans athletes can compete. But that being said, trans athletes shouldn't be banned from sports. Of course not. And that's something that we see in the States a lot, especially in regards to state legislature being pushed. The opposition, they always say this is an anti-trans bill that bans trans athletes from competing. And that's simply not true. I love how you mentioned it equips people with the right information, with effective messaging, how to communicate about it, what to do. Really powerful. You mentioned in your book, you had a quote, I think it's from Cynthia Millen, and it says, bodies compete against bodies, gender identities don't swim, which is, that's the basis of the argument.
How do we marshal feelings? It's ridiculous. If we turn around and say that we're going to accept a feeling that says someone can feel like a male or a female depending on their feeling, not the reality of their body, where does that stop? What's the next feeling that's going to trump a reality? And we're not doing our kids any favors by not dealing with the truth. It's by telling young children that they're going to be able to change sex when they're not. They're going to have to take medication for the rest of their life. They're going to have to do things to their bodies which will probably shorten their lives.
Final hour of Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow starts right now, live from our downtown Nashville 6th and Peabody studios with Old Smoky Moonshine and Yeehaw Beer. I'm Chad Withrow. Jonathan Hutton is here. We got a loaded final hour for you. Trey Wallace of OutKick.com, senior SEC writer, will join us live from SEC Media Days coming up in about 5 minutes. And speaking of college football, names to know, Gary Danielson, longtime broadcaster with CBS, longtime broadcaster of the SEC CBS Game of the Week. That's about to become the Big Ten Game of the Week on CBS. Will join us about 20 minutes from now.
Are they keeping the theme?
I think that they are going to. That is proprietary, and they are.
It was on the
it.
preview of what's to come for CBS with the Big Ten.
Yeah, I don't remember if it was CBS that put that promo together or it was someone else that just used the music.
No, that was CBS. Well, I believe it's CBS because it had the CBS promo saying the Big Ten will have the best game.
Yeah, the da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. That will stay.
That's going to feel weird,
That will be Big
man.
Ten. It's going to be very weird.
Do you think?
I'll talk to Gary Danielson about just that.
Do you think those guys, Nessler or Danielson, feel like, something like you're about to retire or you're joining a new team and it's kind of the farewell tour and it's weird in a way?
I think for those guys that have just done so much in their careers also, it probably feels less like that and more just like, oh, now we get to go see some different places and different games, right? It's not because they're staying with CBS.
Right.
It's just more of now we get a different selection of games to go to. I don't think it's. I think it feels less like.
You know what though? I bet it feels a lot like Texas and Oklahoma or USC and UCLA, where you've got a year before you begin, the new beginning, and you're just kind of. I mean, it's not awkward for the broadcast team by any means, but I mean, you are trying to say you're covering the best conference, and you're about to say it again next year,
right?
For the other conference.
I mean, you fly the flag that pays you. And they'll be flying that Big Ten flag now.
They'll have some
CBS.
great games there, too.
Yeah, they will. So we'll talk to Gary Danielson about that and much more coming up a little bit later. Big news in the NFL yesterday was a running back uprising. Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley, Tony Pollard all received the franchise tender. Only one of them signed it yesterday. That's Tony Pollard with the Cowboys. Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, they decide they're going to hold out and they're going to try to negotiate a long-term contract, but it does not look good. And then Matt Miller posted something that got the running back world fired up about what it looks like now for NFL teams.
And he's telling the truth.
Yeah.
Draft a running back.
Draft a running back. 2, play the running back. If he's good, 3, franchise tag the running back 1 time and then draft a running back.
But also, like, you have the 5th-year option with a first-round pick, right?
Yep.
And if you're not, then you face the tag, but you're getting done a year earlier rather than a year later for the first-round picks who have to go through the 5th-year option, which is good money. But it's also, if you're a first-round, you're expected to be great. Saquon Barkley has been great. He's also been really hurt. And that's why you sign the franchise tender for your team currently right now and don't sit out the way Le'Veon Bell did.
It feels like Derrick Henry is the leader of the running back group in the NFL. He was the first to retweet Matt Miller.
Yeah, and
then
respond.
A lot of other guys
and he normally doesn't tweet.
And chimed in. Yeah, does not tweet a lot. But Hutton, a lot of them are concerned about, and rightfully so, about the place of the running back in the modern NFL. And that place is replaceable.
Yeah. And that's where we are now. That both sides can be right. I mean, you can't go just randomly handpick the next Saquon Barkley, right? It's tough to replace Derrick Henry. But you also have to have a franchise with that mentality that you are going to commit to the run when you pay that type of money to that player. Christian McCaffrey is a do-it-all player. Austin Eckler is certainly that, too, out of the backfield, 100 catches for the Chargers. He scores a ton of touchdowns. He's just playing a position, listed at a position where it's much more affordable to just either tag or pick up an option than it is extend the player currently with the Chargers. He's also been vocal about it.
Well, speaking of replaceable, Le'Veon Bell had some issues in Pittsburgh, and he's now spoken out about that.
So last year, he doubled back and said he wouldn't change his decision to sit out the 2018 season. Ultimately, he sits out but comes back with the Jets. and was nowhere close to what he was in Pittsburgh. But by staying in Pittsburgh throughout the duration of the entire career, and think about the talent they had versus what they lost due to just malcontents. Antonio Brown and then Le'Veon Bell wanted to get paid, tried to play his card, and they've moved on as a franchise. But if you play your entire career there, you are a part of the brand. You're embraced by the fans. You're brought back for speaking engagements as part of the Pittsburgh franchise. And Le'Veon Bell on his social media had this to say to Steelers Nation.
I never apologize to the fans for really sitting out or leaving the Steelers. I never apologize. So I'm going to say I apologize for leaving the best damn fans there is in this damn world. I shouldn't have left. I apologize. I should never have left. I apologize. That's my fault. That's on me.
I like it. In hindsight, I think that's pretty easy to say, or not easy to say. It's easy to know. It's oftentimes not easy to say, and it meant a mistake, but that's what he did.
And that's what Josh Jacobs and Saquon Barkley are threatening to do.
Yep.
And that just makes no sense whatsoever.
Trey Wallace makes a lot of sense. Senior SEC writer for OutKick.com. He is at our broadcast spot in a very stormy Nashville, Tennessee, as the storm rages on behind him. Trey Wallace is covering SEC Media Days for OutKick over at the Grand Hyatt Hotel. On with us right now. Trey, how you doing, my friend?
I'm good, guys. It's all of a sudden, living on the Gulf Coast, I'm used to bad weather and hurricanes, and it looks like it just popped up right behind me here in Nashville. So it is what it is. We're rolling along here, though, at Media Days.
We've covered the Kirby Smart presser, which I know Chad will hit on in a moment because he was also in on that. Hugh Freeze also made the rounds and spoke to the media today in a position out at Auburn that he did not think he would be in whenever everything went down at Ole Miss, right? He acknowledged that. He never thought he would get back to the SEC.
And we go back to that time, guys. We remember that. We remember when Hugh Freeze was caught up. And look, he didn't get fired because the NCAA investigation. He got fired because off the field, calling phone numbers that he probably shouldn't have in Florida. So, look, him getting back into the SEC, and this is his spot, okay? This is where Hugh Freeze belongs. He wouldn't fit at a USC, UCLA, Oregon, something like that on the West Coast, even something on the East Coast, really. And I know where Liberty is, so let's not get into that. But I'm saying overall, the SEC is home. And he didn't feel optimistic that he'd be able to get back in. And we're not just talking about as a head coach. We're talking about as an assistant coach, an offensive coordinator, a passing game, you name it. So, you leave that situation in Oxford, and 2 years later, he gets a lifeline from Ian McGraw at Liberty and gets that job. And, he said today that once they started having some success against Arkansas, Baylor, Syracuse, a couple others, that he started to feel that he might be able to get back into the conference. Now, we didn't know what that was at the time. You guys remember this. There are multiple teams in the SEC that tried to hire Hugh Freeze 3 years ago to be an offensive coordinator. Greg Sankey wasn't having it. But to hear Hugh Freeze say that he appreciates Greg Sankey being along for the ride and being somebody they can go to for information or, just to chat with, and how much he appreciates that friendship, I think that tells you how far we have come in the last 3 years when it comes to Hugh Freeze. Because, guys, it was so bad. And he got to Liberty, and he did good. There were some wins there. But for him to turn around, and let's not forget this, for him to go from Ole Miss and then stay, I know it's the last year, but stay in the SEC West and get a job like Auburn, that doesn't happen a lot, guys, especially for the stuff he was involved in with the investigation into paying players and whatnot. We all remember how that went down, even with Larry Matunzel, and then the off-field stuff. So what I'm getting at is that the fact that he is here today and was here today as Auburn's head coach, I think it speaks volumes as to what people think about him and his restoration of his image. Because it's easy for us to sit here, and fans and say, oh, he doesn't belong here. Look what he did at Ole Miss. You can't believe him. Guys, he's the head coach at Auburn. Somebody believed him.
Yeah.
Somebody trusted him to get this job, and I think that's a big point of emphasis, guys.
Yeah, and I would also emphasize he returns in the SEC where he can now pay players again. Which
Isn't that wild? Isn't that
he's doing that. I mean, the entire offense.
You left the SEC with Ole Miss, where you didn't get fired for it, but you were getting in trouble a little bit for paying players.
If he brings in A.J. Brown, D.K. Metcalf, Laramie Tunsil, Robert Kimdichie now, no one's asking any questions.
No, we're just asking how much. Not if, but how much are they making in NIL to be there, right?
And you know what else? You know what else we're saying? We're saying Ole Miss has got the best collective in the country.
Exactly.
At the same time, that's how much things have changed. That the paying of players, we don't bat an eye to that anymore. We don't care. Oh, that means you got a badass collective. Good for you. Now it's back then it was shame, shame, shame. Now it's congratulations. Man, things have gotten crazy since Hugh Freeze left the conference a couple years ago.
Shout out to loyal YouTube viewer David, who in the YouTube chat reminds everyone as we see the storm rage on that Nashville is one of the few major cities to be hit by a tornado downtown, one of the few major cities. So thank you for that pleasant reminder, David. And says he's watching from Fort Worth, and that's another place that's been hit by a tornado downtown. So stay safe out there, everyone, for sure. Kirby Smart played it safe today, Trey. I watched his media availability in the big room, and I come away thinking, I see why that guy's such a good recruiter. He really got up there and sold everything very well, and I thought did a good job, not really explaining much, but bringing the message that he wanted to bring to this SEC Media Days.
Yeah, he was going to come up there, and he was going to say all the right things. He was going to talk about the leadership that they have in the locker room. Going to talk about Brock Bowers. Going to talk about what he's got coming back on defense. And, he filibustered that thing. He talked for about 14 minutes and 20 seconds, according to my watch. But, look, I mean, I didn't expect him to get up there and say a lot about the culture at Georgia, which I think is a little bit overblown, in my opinion. When it comes to these traffic violations and whatnot, 18 to 20-year-old kids. And he said it, too. He said 18 to 20-year-old kids, you give them these vehicles. What do you do when you're 18, 20 years old? You get speeding tickets. Okay, I got 3 speeding tickets from the age of 17 to 21. I can relate. Now, the other incident is something different, and that's why people, the tragic loss of Chandler McCoy, Devin Willa. But that's where we get into a situation where Kirby Smart's trying to push this thing forward. He's trying to move past where we are right now. And I don't disagree with that in a sense of if anything else happens at Georgia, he's going to be crucified for it. So he's setting himself up. He's setting himself up for the next time a player gets pulled over going 88 and a 55. And look, and here's another thing, too, that kind of adds it. Like, everybody's like, oh, they're not punishing the players. How do you know they're not punishing the players? Like, how do you know they're not working the absolute hell out of those players, running stadiums, going to local diversion programs on how to drive and not – like, you don't know. Kirby Smart's just not telling you. So half of me kind of agrees with what Kirby Smart's doing. I didn't expect him to go up there and just, lay it all out there on the line. Some people tried to ask some questions, and I completely understand that, and I respect that. But Kirby's trying to move past this right now, and I don't blame him. We got the season coming up, but the problem I will say with guys, he's got 2 lawsuits now, and not him personally, but he's involved with the UGA Athletic Association, with the University of Georgia Athletic Department. A lot of these are separate, and Kirby Smart's going to be in there. So got to deal with lawsuits while this is going on. It's a tragic situation that happened. But everybody's trying to somehow put this thing back together at Georgia. And unfortunately, his players just can't stop speeding. Like, that's the big thing. So,
Trey, I got about a minute left here.
Much today.
Got about a minute left here, Trey. Yeah. Zach Arnett, interviewed him earlier, strikes me as the complete opposite of Mike Leach from a personality standpoint. Mike Leach cared and was interested in everything. This guy is interested in ball, and that's it. He is a football guy, and he's not going to talk about much else. Did you get the same impression?
Yeah, great interview with him, by the way. Absolutely, Zach Arnett. When he was talking about it in the ballroom, he said, "Just roll the football out there and let's play ball." Yeah, that to me is a football coach. What he does is he can be the CEO of a program and he can hire the best guys around him to help run that program. And I think that's what you get out of Zach Arnett. Is he a head coach? We don't know yet, but let's hope he put the right staff together to help him become that good head coach that he needs, and he can lean on other people. So I thought he did a great job. And you know what? He's got one of the best darn quarterbacks in the SEC coming back in Will Rogers. So I look forward to watching what a defensive team in Mississippi State looks like. And he's got big shoes to fill, but I think he'll be okay in the long run, guys.
Trey Wallace, you can read his work, OutKick.com. Trey, thank you, man. Let's do this again tomorrow after Nick Saban makes the rounds.
Cool. Look forward to that one, guys. Y'all be good.
Thanks so much, Trey. Stay safe out there. Trey Wallace, senior college football writer now for OutKick, OutKick.com. Appreciate him. Yeah, Arnett, and hearing that interview that we conducted with him, and I don't mean this as a slight. The guy cares about football. That's it, right? Pretty simple, pretty straightforward about his priorities.
Those recruits rallied around him last year.
It said a lot about that staff's ability to recruit and keep them together after the tragedy surrounding Mike Leach. No doubt about it. Gary Danielson, he's been on the call on CBS SEC Game of the Week for years. This will be his final season calling SEC games, with CBS now moving to the Big Ten. We talked to him about that and much, much more. CBS's Gary Danielson next here on Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow.
Of male advantage plaguing women's sports, it only recently came to light, I feel like, for so many, including myself. I was really only became aware of this when I was slapped across the face with it in regards to Leah Thomas. But as you alluded to, this is something that you had experience of. You were well ahead of your time. I mean, 43 years ago, you saw this. And so would you be able to touch on what that experience looked like competing against the East Germans?
And we would have East German athletes turning up to things like, even like the Olympics, and we'd never, ever seen them before. And they would literally arrive and smash world records. They looked and sounded like, very masculine. They had deep voices, very large Adam apple, bad skin, through no fault of their own. I've never had a problem with these individuals. They were pawns of a horrible system. The people I have a big problem with is the IOC. And they allowed this to happen for 20 years. They even had East German doctors sitting on international doping panels. So every time we came up with a way to try and catch them, they would find a way to avoid being caught. And this was allowed to go on for 2 decades. So imagine the number of females that missed out. However, those females only missed out at international competitions, and they predominantly missed out in swimming, track and field, and rowing. What we've got now is 10 times worse, because this is happening across every single sport, at every single level, in every single country. So I've been pushing very hard to say, right, we need to have a female classification, however that looks. Me, ideally, I'd love to bring back sex tests. And then an open and inclusive category so that everyone is still welcome in sport. Because just like you, I'm sure, you want people to do sport. You want people to be physically active, to be healthy, because it helps us, both our body and our minds, and in a world at the moment with mental health, particularly in young girls, through the roof, we need people to be physically active. So it's the last thing in the world I would ever want to do is to ban anyone from sports. I just want to protect the opportunities for people that are biologically female to have equal chance of being able to win medals, put successes onto their onto their CV going forward, get university scholarships, get places on teams, be proud of records that they set, whatever it is. Females are worthy of equal opportunity. We are not second-class citizens, and I'm not prepared to sit back and pretend that we are. So,
amen. Oh my gosh, it's so true. There is no compromise for women. There is nothing that we should have to give up to ensure that trans athletes can compete. But that being said, trans athletes shouldn't be banned from sports. Of course not. And that's something that we see in the States a lot, especially in regards to state legislature being pushed. The opposition, they always say this is an anti-trans bill that bans trans athletes from competing. And that's simply not true. I love how you mentioned it equips people with the right information, with effective messaging, how to communicate about it, what to do really powerful. You mentioned in your book, you had a quote, I think it's from Cynthia Millen, and it says, bodies compete against bodies, gender identities don't swim, which is, that's the basis of the argument.
How do we marshal feelings? It's ridiculous. You know, if we turn around and say that we're going to accept a feeling that says someone can feel like a male or a female depending on their feeling, not the reality of their body, where does that stop? You know, what's the next feeling that's going to trump a reality? And we're not doing our kids any favors by not dealing with the truth. You know, it's by telling young children that they're going to be able to change sex when they're not. They're going to have to take medication for the rest of their life. They're going to have to do things to their bodies which will probably shorten their lives.
Glad you're with us for Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow here on the OutKick Network. Chad's crushed it today with the interviews from the SEC Radio Row here in Music City. Gary Danielson, polarizing. Here's Chad's chat with the CBS analyst.
We're back. SEC Media Days coverage live from the Grand Hyatt in Nashville continues on Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow. And we are joined now by the esteemed color analyst for CBS Sports, SEC on CBS. Soon to be a different conference on CBS, but he's here with us for one more year, and we're thrilled to have the great Gary Danielson with us. Gary, does this feel a little bittersweet for you? Does it feel like a farewell tour?
It does. Yeah, I think that's a word, really. You know, I entered the conference in 2006. You know, it was an important decision in my life. I was doing national championship games at ABC, but I had a sense that this conference was about to take off. I think I made a silly prediction that I thought the SEC would win 5 of the next 10 national championships, and I was only off by 8 in a row or something like that.
You lowballed the SEC
exactly.
at that point.
I was a little bit behind, but it's been a great run. We're you know, I knew, and then I learned, and of course our CBS crew knew, you know, how important SEC football is to this section of the country. It's a way of life. I've experienced it. I couldn't ask for anything more. I've done, 17 years, 12, 15, probably 250 games. And I bet we haven't had 5 that didn't have national championship implications. And that's what college football is all about. You know, I say this, I'm not really big on, you know, ice skating or swimming or track and field. But if you put a gold medal as the consequence for that event, I can watch it. And I've been doing gold medal games here for 17 years.
Well, we've loved it. You know, the SEC fans are certainly going to miss your analysis. What's next for you? Is it Big Ten on CBS?
I'm contracted to work for CBS, and hopefully I'll be doing the games. You know, I love doing college football. You know, I've been really lucky in my career. I started in 1990. This is my 34th year of doing college football. I've worked with 3 Hall of Famers. You know, I started out with Nessler, Ron Franklin, Steve Physiak, and then, of course, I had a long run with Brad over at ABC, and then Brent Musburger and Vern Lundquist for all those years. So, you know, 3 Hall of Famers with Vern and Brent and Brad and, of course, the great Ron Franklin. So I've been pretty lucky with the guys I've worked with.
Well, it's amazing. You just went through that Hall of Fame list of guys you've worked with. How quickly does chemistry develop when you're working with someone at that level? And are they masters at creating that chemistry with whoever their broadcast partner may be?
It's a collaboration. I mean, but you know, we've got a great product. You know, I mean, we're there. We're not the stars of the show. You know, I've never felt that way. I mean, we're there to present a game that these universities, these kids have worked so hard to get into the football game. It kind of just rolls. I mean, I'm working with pros. You know, it's funny, when I first got started, I worked with the great Bob Goodrich, a producer who once did Monday Night Football. And he said, "Gee, you can say anything you want, You got 13 seconds, though, because the next play is coming up. And then Brent kind of chimed in and said, yeah, but if it isn't interesting, I'm not going to let you talk in the next 13 seconds. Make it interesting. And basically that's it. You know, you got to say something that you see. You've got to take something that looks complex and explain that it's simplify it. And then you got to take something that looks really simple, you know, flare pass to the right, and show the complexity of the protection and the coverage read and the quarterback drop. And, you know, so you take simple, show the complex, you take the complex and make it simple and just keep it doing it over and over again.
Speaking of simple versus complex, NIL in college football now, you know, Greg Sankey made that a big emphasis in his address for the conference yesterday. A lot of thoughts on it, a lot of ideas, you know, and even Greg Sankey, I think, said it's a net positive for the student athlete, but it's almost this existential threat to college sports and college football moving forward if it's not figured out. Where do you stand on that?
I don't know if there's answers for this. I really don't. I have a lot of confidence in my ability to understand sports, college football, but the NIL I cannot figure out, because the temptation when you bring money into the equation is in acquisition of talent. So now what do you do with that money? Do you reward players that you already have? Okay, so that would be keeping talent. But if you don't, I think the one thing that Urban showed when he came, you know, in 2007 or 6, what Nick showed at Alabama, and now what Kirby is showing at Georgia, you got to have the talent, man. You got to go out and get those great players if you're going to win. So now if you got a bucket of money, what do you use it for? You use it to go acquire acquisitions of talent. But that's supposed to be illegal. I don't know how to fight through this. I really don't. I don't think anybody has the answers. There's some great minds out there. There's a lot of opinions. I think Commissioner Sankey's right. It is great for the athletes, but it's complicated. You know, there's salary caps in the pro football players. Do these players work for the universities? I can't pretend to figure it out, but I do know it's going to have a huge impact on college football.
Well, acquisition of talent, a lot of that at Georgia and Alabama, but Stetson Bennett and Bryce Young move on. What is the impact on both those programs, and is it different from one spot to the other when you look at what those guys meant?
So the beauty of college football, I think it happens in all sports. You know, you still get the, you know, I was a walk-on into the NFL. You know, I was undrafted. Kurt Warner was undrafted. So it happens at every level. But the contrast of those two guys, you know, Stetson Bennett and Bryce Young, won the, you know, unanimous #1 quarterback in the country, and the other one that nobody wanted, and they're meeting, you know, for championships. They're producing championships. You know, it's quite a contrast. And sometimes it goes down to the littlest things. I mean, you got to give Kirby a lot of credit. You know, after, it was 3 years ago when Stetson Bennett threw the pick 6 against Alabama, the whole Georgia fan base said, we love Stetson. We give him a lot of credit, but he's not good enough to get us over the hump and beat the Alabamas and the LSU.
Yeah, how is he the best option?
Right.
With all the 5 stars around him, how is this guy the best option?
They actually called Kirby out. Why are you doing this? We have a generational defense. This guy can't win it. Kirby stuck with him, and he was right. Now, it came close. I don't know if you remember the Florida game. I mean, they've got that defense, and it's 3-0 with 3 minutes. It's Anthony Richardson's first start.
That's right.
And it's 3 minutes to go in a half. Stetson throws a terrible pick. It was at the peak of JT Daniels, where he's got to play him. They get a fumble on a quarterback keeper. Stetson's able to get him into the end zone, and from then it's just a roll. So it came very close for Stetson, maybe never to play again, and look what happens. He goes back-to-back national championships. So sometimes it's just the littlest of things that can do it, but it's kind of the fun of sports.
You had Bobby Petrino games when he was at Arkansas.
Right.
Now back in the conference, offensive coordinator at A&M. Jimbo Fisher didn't want to answer whether or not he's going to call plays specifically, but we all believe that he will be calling plays. What do you make of that dynamic between those two men, knowing their personalities, and now they're on the same coaching staff?
I think that they will mesh together. I mean, look what Nick Saban and Lane Kiffin. I mean, no one would predict that would mesh well, but it did, because you have the goal. You put in 100 hours to prepare the team to win the game. You work together and draw the game plan. They'll figure it out. I mean, you also got the veteran Jim Chaney coming in there right now too. Yep. One of my favorites. First met Jimmy when he was at Purdue coaching Drew Brees. So that's a good triumvirate there to put games together and help Jimbo out. I mean, Jimbo's a great offensive mind, but sometimes the enormity of being a head coach and calling, the precise plays of play calling, maybe it's too big of a job, So I think they'll figure it out, but Jimbo will be there developing the game plan, and I'm sure he'll have impact, but I agree with you. I think Petrino will be calling him.
Every big moment for Tennessee football in the last 10 years always has this way of feeling like this great awakening with the fan base, because it's been so starved to be nationally relevant in the worst way possible. But I can't help but think, I was in the stadium, Tennessee, Alabama this past year, and the way that thing ended and the way that thing went, it did feel like a great awakening. What was that experience like, calling that game and then seeing that scene in Neyland Stadium?
Well, I mean, I've done 250 of these games in the SEC, and that's definitely in the top 5 of the games I've ever done. Just the experience, and you're right, the hunger by the Tennessee fan, not to, I guess you could experience a little bit at Georgia, and I guess there is similarities. When Florida reappeared after Spurrier had done it, and now Urban's back, you could feel the fan base go, "We're finally back." Yes, you could feel it that they're finally back. When Nick brought them back at Alabama, when he did it at LSU, it was an experience, and it felt that way. I think this about Tennessee. When I first came to the league, I was shocked at their talent. I'd been away from football, but I remember, when you remember college football in the 90s, I mean, it was Notre Dame, it was Ohio State, Michigan, Tennessee, Alabama.
Nebraska.
Nebraska, Texas. You always mentioned Tennessee in the first paragraph. But then I kind of felt the dynamics of the recruiting, as Auburn, Georgia, Alabama, and the SEC grew. I always felt that Tennessee had a tough road to hoe. I mean, just going south, the great athletes had to pass by 2 or 3 schools to go to Tennessee.
Yep.
Going north is Big Ten country. That really didn't connect. But I think we're sitting in what could be. I think the stock to buy in the SEC right now is Tennessee stock. This explosion of Nashville population, what's happening to the state. For a long time, Tennessee coaches said, we could only get 1, 2, 3 players, high caliber SEC players in our own home state. Where Georgia, Alabama, and Florida LSU had their pick of great players. But I think now with this population growth, it's going to be 6, 8 guys from the state that are going to be good enough that they can corral and then go build around that base. So I think Tennessee's here to stay. I do question, I want to be honest, I do question whether the offense, which is good enough for upsets and good enough to go from 5, 6, 7 wins to 10, 11 wins, but can this offense that's so quarterback dependent and offense dependent win all the games? Because if you notice, Georgia has reproven again what Nick established, that balance, complementary offense and defense with the best players is the way to go, where you don't have to put all that weight because look what happened to Nick last year. You get a injured shoulder to your quarterback, you're out of it. I mean, so that's going to be my question. What will Josh do? He's going to get there's no doubt he's going to get there to compete. But
it feels like an 8-9 win a season team now.
A little bit more, but it could be a little bit. And this is a different conference. Oklahoma could always get there, but when they had to play a team that was a little more physical than them, they needed more help and not just, either Baker wins it or we lose. You know, and I wonder if Josh will have to tone it down a bit. It's not likely. I know what he believes in it 100%, and I know they do run the ball. I get it. But you do, in my mind, to win all the games, which is what you have to do in college football, they need a little bit more complementary offense to their defense.
Are you on social media at all?
I know, I'm very aware of it,
well, that's what I'm going to get into because you know the passion of the SEC fan base, and
I embrace it though.
There is Gary Danielson's an Alabama fan, or this is going on in this game.
Well, it's even worse. Well, okay. So
what's the worst you've seen or heard?
None of it's worse than the other. It's frustrating only for one reason. I'll tell you a quick little story. When I was playing with the Lions, I played quarterback in the NFL. So, I mean, with Detroit, you didn't win. You're going to catch stuff.
Yep.
But, I caught it as a player. I caught it in the Big Ten when I do Ohio State and Michigan. It's just more immediate, with this stuff now.
Yep.
But what's frustrating is not the personal attacks. It's not. It's that I'm kind of the face of our product at CBS. We're very proud of the product that we do, the games we do, the way we've covered this conference. And for it to always be just about me, I think it's just, I hate it for our team. And that's the only reason. Everybody likes to be liked. I get that. The reason I avoid it is I don't want to play to being liked. I want to call it straight. Whatever happens, happens. But for my guys, I hate after the game, they go look at the game, and they're very proud of what we did, and it's all about me. I hate that for our crew.
Hey, we've loved talking to you over the years. Hopefully we continue to keep doing it. I really appreciate it.
You got it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Gary Danielson, CBS Sports, maybe CBS Sports on Big Ten. We don't know yet, but we'll find out.
The two biggest social media giants, Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg, are set to battle it out, and I'm here on Broadway asking people who they put their money on. Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk, they're gonna fight each other. Who do you think's gonna win?
I think Mark's got him.
Really?
Yeah.
Why do you think that?
Because he's a man.
Okay, and Elon Musk isn't?
Oh, well, of course, he's got money.
Okay.
He's got money. Money, well, money's money.
Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg in a fight?
I don't know. I'm going to go with Musk.
Why?
It just seems like he's a little bit younger, a little bit smarter.
You just got a good feeling about him?
I got a good feeling.
Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg?
Musk.
Why?
He trains. That guy's going to beat his
But Mark Zuckerberg is actually training jiu-jitsu for 9 months.
Not happening. Not Elon Musk all day. Elon Musk.
Why do you think?
He has no soul. I mean, I think he's definitely just going to no holds barred.
Elon Musk.
Why do you think that?
I don't know. I feel like he's stronger and smarter.
Oh, Elon Musk.
All the way? Why?
All the way. He's an animal. Think about it.
Mark Zuckerberg's been training for 9 months jiu-jitsu. You think Elon Musk can take him?
Yeah, I think he can take him.
Elon, that oh God, stop playing with Elon. Elon really do this out here, for real.
I hope Elon
Really? Why do you think so?
got better ideas.
Zuckerberg's like 5'7", 155. Musk is 6'1", 190. But Zuckerberg's been training jiu-jitsu for 9 months. Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg, who's going to win in a fight?
Oh, Elon Musk. No doubt.
Why do you think so?
He's the GOAT. I've been seeing all the Twitter handles and all the talk, and I'm on Elon Musk's side. I'm ready for them to get in the WWE ring and then come off the top rope. That's what I want to see. I want to see a people's elbow to Mark Zuckerberg.
If one was more likely to be a lizard or a robot, who would it be?
Elon.
Okay.
I think Mark Zuckerberg will win.
Why do you think that?
Because I think he already trains MMA. So he's got like the prior experience and stuff. I mean, they're both billionaires, so they have the opportunity to get the best training. But I think Mark Zuckerberg will pull away with the win. Elon Musk.
Why do you think so?
Because he's bigger.
Bigger, okay, but Mark Zuckerberg's been training jiu-jitsu for 9 months. Do you think that matters?
No.
Because Elon Musk's he's gonna learn and train, right? So
Yeah. I think he'll handle Mark Zuckerberg. Mark Zuckerberg's a lizard, right? So
he's a lizard, but does that help him?
I don't think so. I think Elon will squash the lizard.
Cage fight. Elon Musk is mental, so Elon Musk.
All it is just he's mental. He's mentally crazy. So.
He just wouldn't care, would he?
Okay.
He'd just absolutely go for it. I think Zuckerberg would be a bit more refrained.
Okay.
If that should ever happen, which I doubt, but you never know, it'd be entertaining.
Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg?
Elon Musk.
Why?
Because my dad is in love with Elon Musk.
Okay.
I think I'm going to have to go with Zuckerberg. I mean, Threads just came out, so.
Who do you think would win?
Zuck.
Why do you think so?
Because he's not a real human. He's a robot.
So he'll use that to his advantage.
Yeah, and all the Krav Maga stuff too. Yeah.
Yeah. Who do you think would win in a fight, Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk?
Elon Musk.
Why do you think Elon Musk?
I think Elon's
He
smarter.
works with robots, so maybe he built a robot to fight for him.
But what if Mark Zuckerberg is a robot?
Oh wow. Then I might have to change my answer.
Who do you think's gonna win?
Me.
Every so often, a tweet hits you or breaking news, something is out there, and it really makes you do a head turn and wonder what in the world is going on, and is this a real headline? This happened to me about 20 minutes ago when I looked down at Twitter on my internet machine, and I saw that breaking news from ABC News. A home was searched in Las Vegas last night in connection to the Tupac Shakur murder from 1996. Tupac was murdered. He was 25 years old in 1996. And here we are in 2023, Hutton. And last night, Las Vegas PD served a search warrant and searched a house in connection to that murder. This blew my mind when I saw this headline.
I need to know what they're looking for.
I need to know a lot. Henderson, Nevada, to be exact. So a suburb of Las Vegas.
Did this house have a ticket? Someone inside attended the Tyson fight? Or is there somehow?
I would say it's more than that. I mean, I think that they've got some. The fact that they're releasing this information,
there has to be hard evidence as to why they would go.
Tells me they've got something, right? They're reporting this on themselves that we searched a house last night. More news to follow.
And I wonder what the motives are as to why the info is getting to them now.
Well, and also what
as to why they're searching the home.
What possible evidence could be left behind, or would someone hold on to for 27 years? We're talking about now.
I mean, DNA, I guess. I don't
Possibly,
know.
Yeah.
I'm not. I mean, maybe it has to do with that Jeep they pulled out of the lake or whatever.
Could be.
The fisherman.
Could be part of that. It could be part of a magnet fishing scheme where they dug up some evidence somehow. Anyway,
maybe they saw the hologram inside.
That was a headline. Yeah, the hologram where everybody thought he was alive for a short amount of time.
Not everyone.
Not alive.
Just dumb people.
Yeah. No, I shouldn't say everyone. Not alive. We can confirm Tupac still dead, but there is a lead in his murder investigation in Las Vegas. Something that's not dead is the Pac-12, apparently. Heather Dinich of ESPN just now, another breaking news story, reporting that the deal is in the near future. A league source with knowledge of the conversations told Dinich and ESPN, and this deal is going to include a mix of streaming and linear options, and Hutton is expected to be on par with the ACC and the Big 12. It's exactly what they needed.
Well, here's
exactly what the Pac-12 wanted was to be in the neighborhood of those two leagues.
So the key part of this story, though, is also that the presidents and chancellors of the 10 remaining universities after USC and UCLA depart for the Big Ten, they have already pre-negotiated and agreed to the terms on their new grant of rights that will coincide in term with the terms of this new media agreement and partnership, both through streaming and on linear television. That's key here because they've gone behind closed doors and said, okay, here's what we'll do. Here's how we're going to split the revenue. And while details aren't emerging of if it's a split the way Clemson and Florida State want to split, of if Oregon and Washington want something, that's the significant part as to why this deal would be done, Chad, because the TV network or the streaming service that is going to put them, according to this, on par with, what, 31 million is what the Big 12 is getting annually?
Yep.
The ACC is just above that. If you're going to reach that plateau, that threshold, you have to guarantee that the schools that you're signing up are going to be there, and they're not going to bolt for the Big 12, hello Colorado, or the Big 10, if in fact expansion continues in that direction. That is crucial to this deal getting done, and that's a key factor in this report.
Yeah, so possible big news to come very soon, according to Heather Dinich and ESPN, in regards to Pac-12 and a media deal. Ronaldo took the money and ran. He ran all the way to Saudi Arabia, to their pro league, and this is under the category of flying the flag that pays you. He claims that the Saudi Pro League is better than MLS. Now, I went to our resident soccer expert in this studio, Colin Warner, because I honestly don't really know and don't really care. But I asked him, and he said, this is complete BS. MLS is better than the Saudi League. I know a little bit about the MLS. I can honestly say I know nothing about the Saudi League and how good it is. So I take Colin Warner's word for this. It is gospel in the world of soccer to me. So I'll take that and say, yeah, he's lying because he's getting paid a ton of money to play in the Saudi League. So, of course, he's going to talk it up and act like it's better.
Messi's also getting paid, but he didn't take the Saudi money. And right now, I'd say they're tied.
Yeah, well, and Messi gets the ownership
but
piece of it
the
also
star power
in
of
Miami.
Both leagues are these two guys now. Where in Major League Soccer, what was the report of how much people are paying just to get in to watch his first match?
Oh, it's incredible. But also the ownership
cheapest ticket is like $350.
You know,
cheapest.
David Beckham worked this out also when he came over to MLS. Now,
it's incredible.
The key for MLS would be, and it may not be able to happen, but not getting these guys at the end of their career, getting them in the middle of their career to want to come to America and play MLS as opposed to English Premier League or whatever elite international European league they're a part of.
Yeah, I mean, look, I would go and see Messi play. For a Major League Soccer game, I'm not spending that type of money.
No, not at all. People are spending money to go.
But the Saudis will spend money on anything.
Of course. People spending money to go see the new Mission Impossible movie. Sets a franchise record over a 5-day weekend globally. Now, the domestic box office take, $80 million. That's a lot. $20 million more than Indiana Jones, The Dial of Destiny, but it's still seen as a bit of a disappointment for projections of what this Mission Impossible movie was going to do, showing once again that box office and people going to see the movies, it's a problem in the U.S., but this is still a big success. And the Mission Impossible franchise is a global franchise.
What number is this?
This movie will do more than $1 billion.
The seventh
it's
one?
It's at $235 million after one weekend. This is Mission Impossible 7, and it's part 1 of 7. So the next one is Dead Reckoning Part 2, which they had to shut down filming because of the actor strike. They were almost done with filming and shut it down when the actor strike started. So they'll have to resume filming after that.
Chad is our film aficionado.
Yeah.
Why not just call it 8? Why does it have to be a part 2? Why are there shows that have a break in a season after 10 episodes to bring it back for the conclusion instead of just calling it the next season?
Yeah, that's stupid. Now, two different things. So to answer your second question, that's moronic. All right? People do that in the break because they can't get their bleep together. Yes, we're talking about Yellowstone because Kevin Costner, they can't come up with a schedule for him. So they keep having to break things up. I hate a mid-season break for a television show. I think it should just run consecutively. You know who does not do mid-season breaks? HBO. HBO's the one that when they start a show, they're going to go consecutive weeks until it's over. Every single time. They're not going to take many breaks. It's going to go right through it. Huh?
They could end it early, too. Who knows? But you're right.
You never know. But Mission Impossible, this was always going to be 2.5-hour movies. It's one consecutive story. So it is 7 and 8. Like the next one will be Mission Impossible 8 if you're going in sequence.
But it's part 2.
It's part 2 of this Dead Reckoning storyline.
So it's going to be Okay, so they're not going to reference the 8.
Yeah, like it's the other ones. There are tie-ins to previous movies, but similar to the Bond, there was they basically came out in 3 different movies that told one story. They all had different names.
Yeah,
but you can start a Mission Impossible movie anywhere and have no tie into a previous movie
That's
if
right.
you want, and it's still going to be enjoyable. Tom Cruise could make 40 of these Mission Impossible movies. I would see all of them in theater. That's how entertaining they are.
Cruise, the highest paid actor right now on the planet for 2022-23. And DiCaprio is right behind him. Brad Pitt is still up there. Will Smith is in the top 5 currently for the last 2 years.
That's a number that's destined to go down.
Well, just combine The Rock, who at one point was the number 1 highest paid actor, is now 5th overall.
Well, that could change because The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, just earned the largest upfront payday in Hollywood history. $50 million up front is the report. The Rock is being paid for a Christmas release of something called Red One with Amazon. The plot is apparently secret, and we don't have many details on the plot. But I like The Rock. I'm hard-pressed to believe that Dwayne The Rock Johnson is worthy of $50 million up front for any movie. But they've done the calculus on this at the good folks at Amazon, and they've discovered that, hey, it's worth it to us.
Well, but so $50 million, are they buying in? Up front, you get $50 million, but you're going to be a part of an Amazon franchise now? Is that what they're trying to create with them?
I mean, I think it's just for the one movie. I think it's a $50 million up front to just do this movie. That's going to come out around Christmas time.
And
I mean, God bless his agent that negotiated this deal.
The whole premise is secret?
Red One is the name of the movie, but details of the plot have not been released.
But isn't there only a handful of categories we could see The Rock acting for? Like, how secret can it be?
Yeah, I'm guessing it's not a rom-com. I mean, yeah,
it could be
it's probably going to be
movie.
some form of, it could be, but I'm guessing some form of action, even if it's kiddie action. I don't know what, probably shouldn't use those 2 words together.
It's fine. I know what you meant.
I don't know, what could he possibly be doing in this movie that's worthy of $50 million? That will be a return on investment. At some point, these numbers...
It's just him being in it, though.
These monopoly money numbers that are just thrown out there, you just have to be willing to lose a lot of money at some point or another.
Yeah, I mean, but
and is this going to be on Prime Video, or is it going to be a theatrical release? I would think it's going to have to be a theatrical release.
I would think you want both, right?
As part of Amazon funding it.
That's what they're doing with the new DiCaprio Scorsese movie.
So if you go
Killers of the Flower Moon is going to be on Apple.
It's going to be in theaters and Apple.
Yeah, so there's an early release for Apple subscribers.
If you go watch Mission Impossible, I know that you will see the latest Killers of the Flower Moon trailer that plays before Mission Impossible in all theaters.
Different than YouTube?
This may be the reason that Hutton goes. I don't know. I haven't checked to see the latest trailer. I saw the initial teaser trailer.
Okay.
But not the latest one. Fun show today. Got to talk to a lot of people down at SEC Media Days.
I realize that Gary Danielson is very polarizing. I'm going to miss the SEC on CBS.
I'm going to miss that theme song with the SEC.
Yeah, but it's more than it is there's a familiarity with the game. It's like the old school Monday Night Football. Al Michaels on Monday Night Football with John Madden, right?
Yep.
John Madden didn't give you much analysis, catchphrases, and you weren't learning all that much. Gruden, highly entertaining. And then the guys that try to get very analytical aren't on the Monday Night Football for very long. And then the guys that try to be, comedians like Dennis Miller, not there very long. I miss just the tried and true method of showing up, calling a game, and having fans hate you for it.
Yeah.
I wonder what Danielson's least favorite fan base would be. The fan base that pisses him off the most, the one he hates the most, because there are a lot of fan bases who hate him.
Yeah, that's a great one. Typically, the fan bases that hate a broadcaster are the ones who have teams that are struggling. There's a correlation there. When your team is bad...
Or your team's so good it doesn't receive criticism, and he criticizes a play.
Yeah, I don't hear Alabama fans, since Saban's been there, dissing a lot of broadcasters. Why? Because they're normally winning. So they don't hate any broadcasters. It's usually when your team is bad or struggling or really struggling to beat anyone good.
But where it comes in,
that's
though,
when suddenly, this broadcaster hates my team.
It's where here's where they end up hating him. When they lose on the last-second field goal, they lose twice on the last play of the game, and Danielson makes the case for a different team other than Bama.
Yeah.
That's where the Bama fan base comes back and tries to get after him.
But I'm with you. I like the familiarity. I liked it with Vern Lundquist and him.
Loved it.
I like it with Brad Nessler and him. And that is a loss for the SEC. Losing that group, if you're accustomed to certain things on your Saturday afternoon, and one of them is the most watched game every week, which is the CBS SEC game of the week, then you're losing out.
We will
those
still
guys.
see great football on a number of networks moving forward with the Big Ten and SEC.
No doubt about it.
Sankey's on tomorrow.
Plenty of things to talk about with Greg Sankey tomorrow. We can get into TV deals and maybe talk a little bit more about this Pac-12 deal that was just recently, the news was broken with Heather Dinich. It's going to be fun either way. We're back at it tomorrow. Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow.